I'd like to call this meeting, the Clay County Commission, to order. We will begin with our invocation. Commissioner Lawson will lead us in our prayer. Please proceed.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be able to come to you in prayer in public. We ask that you guide us this evening, that you give us knowledge to make good decisions, that we make those decisions with the people of Clay County in mind. Protect our service people, protect our first responders, keep them safe in the jobs as they're keeping us safe. We ask this all in your holy, blessed name. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Nolte?
Here.
Commissioner Withington?
Here.
Commissioner Lawson?
Here.
Commissioner Wagner?
Here.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Here.
Commissioner Thompson?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here. That brings us to approval of the agenda. Is there a motion? Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Move to approve tonight's agenda.
Motion has been made for the approval of this evening's agenda. Are there any comments or alterations anybody would like to make? Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wagner?
Aye.
Commissioner Withington? Yes. Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. I just want to clarify something because we have under public hearings, we have our proposed budget. The next item we are about to do is public comments from anybody here who would like to make a comment on any items. I just want to remind those who might be here to address the commission related to the budget. They can certainly have the opportunity to do that during the public hearings part, and also when we bring them up towards the end of our regular agenda, there will be another opportunity to comment. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that there will be a couple of opportunities for any citizens who would like to comment on our budget, that they can certainly do so at that time. With that, are there any members of the public who would like to make any comments on any other subjects? Seeing none. Oh.
Good evening, David Slater, Clay County, DC.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Excuse me for a moment. Just to make sure that we, a procedural kind of a thing, when you come up to comment, please come up, make sure that the button is pressed so that the green light is lit around the microphone. Speak into the microphone, state your name, and then proceed with your point. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Very good. David Slater, Clay County, EDC. I missed the budget hearings. I was at the Freedom Incorporated Christmas party as a guest of Rodney Bland because Rodney wanted me to tell about what we've been working on the past 18 months, which a big part of that is Kansas City Northland continues to get beat 4-9. You keep hearing about that. I decided to do something about it. So I got an opportunity to make a relationship with Freedom. We did it, and the votes are getting closer. We're not there yet, but we are getting very close, and it's much better. But it also came in handy when we had the problem with Meta, and they didn't get the minority contract numbers up where they wanted to. But I was able to talk with those folks, and they were able to go back to the Black Chamber of Commerce and just say that, okay, 18% of zero is zero. Let's work on the next 14 buildings. That came in handy. It also came in handy when we talked about funding the prosecutor during that budget for an extra $100,000. We got an excellent prosecutor. No issues. But I will tell you this. Anybody know who Rod Chappell is by chance? He's president of Missouri's NAACP. Rod was coming up here because they were going to put a travel advisory on Clay County. I was able to reach out to my friends. They were able to call a meeting, and Prosecutor Thompson was lights out during that time. There was no travel advisory. There was no travel advisory because we had the right people in the room led by our prosecutor. But that doesn't happen without your Clay EDC. The next thing is that the World's Fun. Remember 150 kids getting in a fight? Well, Deb Herman and I got everybody in the room together that needed to be there, including our prosecutor. The sheriff was out of town, the chief of police was out of town, but with the help of Don Kramer, who got appointed to the EDC, to the Kansas City Police Board, we were able to get the right people in the room. You never heard a word about it. You know why? Rick Fielder, the GM, because of the support he got from the people that Deb and I got in the room, put 7 years on those kids. They didn't get their hands slapped. They got 7 years removal from Worlds of Fun, and their parents got to come pick them up next time they came in. Okay, we talked about $100,000 for roads. Well, if you recall, Governor Parson and the legislature passed basically it's going to be 12.5 cent gas tax. It's going to make about $700,000 a year for the county. And not to say I had anything to do with it, but he always signs about 5 or 6 extra copies of the bill. He handed one to me. And so we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars for this. And I talked to Carl. Is Carl here? Yeah, there's Carl. About doing a bridge thing once a year. Take that $700,000. It's extra money. It's not in your budget right now. It will be. But dedicate towards redoing bridges and get allocations from Mark. You know, you're talking $100,000. I'm going to talk about billions. The Missouri Department of MoDOT has $13.9 billion in their surface transportation program that they're going to be spending in the next 5 years. Okay? Warren Erdman, one of the commissioners, gave a presentation, and I was the one in the room and said, no, we did not authorize those things. He thought all those allocations came out of MPO. And so if you're familiar with the Mid-America Regional process, transportation issues have to be run through a couple committees and Transportation Committee before it goes to the MARC board. Not one of those programs, not one of those dollars, that $14 billion, was something we had approved at MARC. And he had no idea. You don't think somebody got chewed? I've been getting calls from him and MoDOT, not from him, but from MoDOT and the people at MARC on a regular basis because somebody screwed up. And so how in the world can you spend $14 billion and have the largest city in the metro, the second largest metro area, not any of their projects get done? I also talked to the state. If you're familiar, the state spent $2.8 billion to widen I-70. It stops at Blue Springs. The number one project down at the Mid-America Regional Council is $100 million. And you take that $100 million, and that's from 435 to 470. And you knock that thing down, then all of a sudden it frees up money that the Mid-America Regional Council can spend on our projects, which are the Tier 2 projects right now. And so the state legislature passed that. I was the one who went up to those folks and said, you make that a $3 billion thing, not a $2.8 billion, put another $100 million on St. Louis and fund it. And then that way it frees up that money for us. We got a $407 million problem at I-29, 35, and 169. That doesn't get touched unless we can get our money out of this $14 billion. Okay, and who's chasing that? I'm chasing that. So we've got $100,000 that we're concerned about. I left being mayor of Pleasant Valley in April, but because of my seat on MARC, the total transportation, I wanted to make sure that we had a good following down there. So we combined forces with Platte County, and some of you guys are on those committees, but what we're trying to do is build a Northland coalition. Started with your EDC, and I co-chair the thing now. But we have to go and work together to get that funding, otherwise we'll get outvoted. Cass County kicked our butts about 1.5 years ago, never again. All right, KCATA, we're talking about the KCATA. And Commissioner Nolte and Commissioner Fricker and Auditor Hurlburt were kind of dogged up a little bit. No, the KCATA doesn't run service to 3 of our bigger cities now. Liberty, Gladstone, North Kansas City's teetering, but also Parkville and Riverside. So what do? No, we're working on that. I've called the people in the room together, and it's going to be done by, who's going to lead? That's going to be Tyrone Gardner, the CEO of Wyandotte County, because it had to be somebody from the Core 4. But his staff and I are in constant contact trying to get this thing done because we need transportation to get people back and forth to work. And what's happening right now is not happening. Okay, you want to know what we're doing? Of course, y'all are doing the royal stuff, so am I. And the HCA came up with a certificate of need to put a 3-bedroom nursing home, and we can talk about Liberty Hospital, Excelsior Springs, Children's Mercy in North Kansas City, or St. Luke's not wanting that, but the key thing is that the first responders did not want that. Who took the lead on that? Who got the people in the room? Your EDC did. Okay, I went down to testify in Jeff City, took a day off to go down, not a day off, but a day away from the office to go down there, did my work later on that night. We do 504 small business loans. Kearney couldn't have passed their use tax 3 times. They asked me to come up there and help them because of some information I learned as a mayor being president of statewide mayors. passed. They're using that thing for quality of life things. North Kansas City School District bond issue, I chaired it. So 504 small business loans, we're making a ton. Commissioner Carpenter can talk more about that. And the 587 project, if you don't know about that, you probably shouldn't be sitting up here, but the 587 is the intersection of 152 and 435, and we call it a game changer for the metro and attitude adjustment for the Northland. And if you want to hear more about it, I make presentations all the time, but it's time we start acting like we had 400,000 people in Northland, not being content crossing the river, crossing the state line. The EDC is leading that. David Block, and they says, well, they'll never get going. David Block is marking the southeast corridor for the Mormon Church. And the northeast, I've got a meeting set up with the northeast corridor to get that sold to a developer. We're moving on that thing. And it's not just sitting on the corner. Councilman O'Neill's going to be leading that issue. And Polsinelli, whatever, is working on a TIF plan for us. So anyway, we talked about the extra 7 members of the EDC, of the county commission. Who led that effort? Anybody know who led that effort? The Clay County EDC and the Clay County mayors are the ones who initiated that, started that work. I don't know how many times I knocked on doors for that thing, but it was a lot. The Platte County merger discussion came up. It's just discussions. It will have to be very beneficial to Clay County before we sign. We don't have to sign off on that. The reason we're even talking about it is because of the lack of support from this body and the Platte County Commission. Okay, it's just time to go. And we say, well, where do you spend your money on? Well, it's not on me. I took a $20,000 a year pay cut over 3 years ago. I'm in year 4, never got a raise. I don't need it. But you try to replace me and it's not gonna be cheap. And honestly, he's gonna have these connections. And I never travel over, I never went to a convention, anything like that. Yeah, but you see me all over Clay County. All right, in the role of presiding commissioner, it's been the same since we founded our bylaws in 1967. So you guys just funded a pretty damn good organization. Congratulations. And I'm going to stick around just in case one of you wants to put in the budget later on. Thanks. Questions?
No. The thing is, this is public comments. I really can't inquire of you at this point. Just want to remind everybody that we are in public comments. While I don't necessarily think that those remarks were out of order, they're mainly here for a broader spectrum. The next item on our agenda is going to be the public hearing on the proposed budget. So clearly, if anyone else has anything they want to say on a subject other than budget, we will move on to that when we have finished public comments. Are there any other members of the public wishing to comment this evening? Seeing none. That brings us to the public hearings part of our agenda. I will call to order the public hearing. Calling to order the public hearing on the budget. Administrator, if you would like to proceed.
Thank you, Commissioners. So I have a brief presentation to introduce the 2024 budget and then open it up for public comment. I would like to preface it by starting to the Commissioners. You will see a few numbers that are different than what we've seen during the workshops because we have been able to close the 2023 fiscal year. And so some of our funds ended in better shape. And so the fund balance and carryover are larger than what we were using during our proposed budget. So you'll see some numbers that have changed. So I just wanted to set the stage for that. You know, the budget started early in May when the commission held its strategic plan. Along with office holders and staff, a vision statement was created along with 5 key focus areas which the commission endorsed as being those priorities for us to be a successful county. In addition to that, the county also identified some goals over the next 3 to 5 years. So this was our guiding principle as staff and office holders began putting the budget together to align our resources with those key focus areas that you see before you on the screen. So we can't talk about the budget if we don't talk about numbers. And so this particular chart will show the 24 budget compared to the adopted 23. And so at the column on the right, at the very bottom, the total authorized budget for 2024 is $164.4 million. Now in that, we have some what we consider one-time money. The ARPA and the ERP funding is included in that number, which are federal dollars and one-time expense. We also still have some bond funding that is also one-time money. So when you remove that from the authorized funding, you have a 2024 budget of $147.1 million, which allows us to compare it to the 2023 adopted budget, which is an 8.7% increase from adopted budget to the 2024 budget. We look at the revenue sources for the $164.4 million budget. You can see that 31% of our revenues on a countywide basis comes from sales tax. Our second largest operating revenue is fees, fines, licenses, and leases at 11%. We have grants approved for next year that is 6% of our operating revenue, and property tax is 4%. Then we have some additional small revenues, and then you see that reserves are 34% of the resources that are available. But since sales tax is such a large amount of our operating revenue, we want to do a little bit of a deeper dive to explain how those sales tax are used. In the 2024 budget, $51 million, a little over $51 million, is budgeted in sales tax. We have 3 categories of sales tax, and you see that in the chart on the left. So we have the use tax, and that's internet sales tax. That is a 7/8 of 1%, and that's budgeted at $10.2 million. And the county uses that in our capital funds. We also have a dedicated law enforcement sales tax of 1/8 of 1 cent. That is budgeted at $5.8 million. It is a restricted funding that can only be used in the law enforcement fund. And then we have a general sales tax. So we have 2 general sales tax that total 3/4 of 1%, and that's budgeted at $35 million. So of the $35 million of general sales tax, the second chart in the middle of the page shows you how those funds are allocated. So $2.4 million, or 7% of the sales tax, the general sales tax, is directly allocated to the TIF fund. In addition to that, the ordinance that is on your agenda later this evening also allocates $8.9 million of the general sales tax to the law enforcement fund. There's a small amount going to the Parks Fund of $445,000. Road and Bridge will get an allocation of $2.3 million, and the general fund then has $20.6 million of the $35 million of general sales tax. However, the next chart to the right shows you the allocation of the $20 million that is in the general fund. And so you can see there that $10.2 million is dedicated to be transferred out of the general fund to the law enforcement fund as needed. There's funding dedicated to the Emergency Communications Fund as needed. We then have some statutory requirements to statutory funds that we need to transfer to. We also have Road and Bridge and Park Fund also have some dollars associated on an as-needed basis. So the general fund actually retains out of the $20 million, 9.2 for its operating budget. So we look at our tax-supported revenues. You see that property tax chart is on the left. So budgeted in 2024 is $6.7 million in property tax. The county has 2 property tax. One is a general mill levy, and that amount is 0.025 mills. That represents 24% of the budgeted revenue. Road and Bridge has its own mill levy, and that mill levy is 0.0657 mills. That represents 70% of the income. Parks receives about 6%, and that is really from the surtax that is placed on commercial properties. And as we've talked about in the prior chart about sales tax and the use tax, $51 million, and so some of that you saw were directly dedicated, some were allocations, and some were as needed. So what this pie chart will show you is through all of that, where does the sales tax land during the budget process? So you can see here that 48% of the sales and use tax goes to the law enforcement fund. The general fund has 18% of it. Road and Bridge has 5%. Our TIF gets 7% of it, and then you see the use tax, which is used for capital. The general use tax is 7%, Road and Bridge gets 8%, and the Park Fund gets 3% of the total of our sales tax. So we look at the expenditures proposed in the 2024 budget. Again, the authorization is $164.4 million. The chart on the left will show you how those funds are allocated by category, with 37% being in personnel, 31% is in contractual, and you can go around the pie chart and see 10% of that is those one-time dollars of ARPA funds and bond funds. We also have transfer of 8%, and 8% are in capital. But as we've talked about during the workshops, that is the budget authorization, but that's not really our operating budget. The operating budget for the county next year is $121.8 million, with 49% of that being in personnel, 32% in contractual, 8% in commodities, and 11% is in capital. So how did we get from an authorization of $164.4 million down to an operating budget of $121.8? And so what this chart has done for transparency is to explain that process. So we have $164.4 that is authorized by the commission. We take away the one-time money, the ARPA money, the bond money that we saw in the first chart. That's $147.1 million. But included in that amount is also what we consider double expense entry. It includes our transfers. And as we've talked about, a transfer is I expense it out of one fund, I take it to another fund, it shows up as a revenue in that fund, and then that fund expenses it. We have to do that for accounting purposes, but when you're actually talking about expenditures, we don't want to count the money twice. So when we take away transfers, we have a budget of $133.6 million. But included in our budget is reserves, carryover, rainy day money. And so, again, those are our reserves, and so we don't spend those. It's our goal not to spend those. And so when we take away reserves, we get to the operating budget of $121.8 million. So when we talked about the focus areas that were identified in the Commission's strategic plan, of the operating budget of $121.8 million, you can see by the 5 focus areas how those funds are allocated. So 38% of the operating budget is for safety. 27% of the operating budget is infrastructure. So 65% of the budget next year is on the commission, and we believe the citizens' top 2 priorities, which is safety and infrastructure. We also then have financial sustainability at 15%, employer of choice at 13%, and our economic opportunity at 7%. So just to give some highlights of what is included in the budget by the focus areas. And when you look at the safety category, we are increasing the deputy starting salary and also addressing compression issues for our existing personnel. We also have a needs assessment for the detention facility funded. In juvenile, which is an area that we have difficulty with recruiting and retention, we're making additional salary adjustments in the detention and group homes. We have also implemented shift differential pay structure for those personnel. In the prosecutor's office, we're adding 2 assistant prosecutors and an administrative support position. You'll see throughout in all our focus areas, with technology of our computer replacement program or enhancing software that we have. We also have included in the budget a needs assessment for the Rooney Justice Center. And also you'll see throughout the different focus areas of funding our equipment replacement, so we have the vehicle replacement for our public administrator. As we look at the infrastructure budget, we look at facilities, we're adding an additional position for painting and taking care of our county facilities. We also have security upgrades to various locations, along with taking care of our assets that we have and replacing HVAC systems and boilers and taking care of our buildings. In the parks, we have a fuel pump replacement system planned at the marina. We're continuing our improvements at the golf course with the cart pass and the bunker replacements, and also addressing a drainage project there, along with parking lot and asphalt maintenance for the trails. And we have vehicle replacements for not only our parks office and function, but also our road and bridge. We have additional salary adjustments proposed for our operational personnel in our highway department. We're adding an engineer position. We are increasing our street preservation and maintenance program by 10%. We're also funding equipment replacement. We have the replacement for the Stockdale Bridge scheduled for next year. That is a $3.5 million project, and the county has received a grant in the amount of $3.2 million for that project. We also have planned for designing the replacement to the old 210 bridge. As we look at financial sustainability, again, we have technology enhancements and improvements, adding a software for asset inventory, replacing network equipment in our computer replacement program. We've also formed the county-wide GIS department. We've had GIS for several years. It's been in 3 different departments, and we're bringing that together as a county-wide function, along with replacing their server. And we're also recommending to change a part-time position and reclassify that to a full-time position in the treasurer's office. When we look at economic opportunity, we have increased funding to 3 outside agencies. We're also recommending, included in the budget, is to have the county be members in the Missouri Association of Counties and the National Association of Counties. We know next year is an election year that will be well attended, and with that comes costs. And so there are increased funding in the election division budget for primary and presidential. We also have funding for a county question in April. And then also under this, and we've talked a little bit about the TIF fund, historically in the past, 10% of the sales tax has gone to the TIF fund. We've had TIFs that are retiring. Looking at our trend, so there is a reduction in the amount that is transferred to the TIF fund, and so that's 7%. So gaining that 3% across all the appropriate funds allows us to deal with inflationary costs. As the employer of choice, in addition to the changes in personnel that I've identified, either with safety or highway or juvenile, all non-sworn personnel will receive a 5% cost of living adjustment. In addition to that, we are recommending there's funding for a classification and compensation study. And then on the right, you see the list of positions that we've already talked about, with 2 assistant prosecutors, 1 support staff, an engineer, painter, and upgrading a part-time position to a full-time position. So the operating budget, while we have talked about it by focus area, we still have fund accounting, and so we must budget by funds. And so of the operating budget of $121.8 million, you'll see here that the general fund is 28% of the operating budget. Law enforcement is 23%. You have the highway at 11%, parks at 6%, and so forth all the way around. It's interesting to note that the county actually has 36 different funds that we allocate our revenues and expenditures to. So these are our major 11 funds that you see listed, and miscellaneous is 5% of the budget, and that actually represents 25 small miscellaneous funds that are 5% of the budget. This is sort of outlines the annual budget process. It took a lot to get to tonight. It started, as I said, with the Commission strategic plan. During the summer months, staff began looking at the financial outlook, making assumptions, and preparing the proposed budget. In October, the Commission had some beginning meetings with regard to the budget. About the fee schedule was adopted by the Commission, presentations by the outside agencies, and an update on the strategic plan. On November 16th, per state statute, the proposed budget was presented to the Commission, and after November 16th, the Commission has had 4 workshops discussing our major funds, and tonight is the public hearing and on your agenda for adoption. We've certainly tried to have public engagement throughout the process. All of the workshops were live streamed. They also can be viewed on the website and on YouTube. All of the documentation and the presentations have been posted out on the website. We've had information on Facebook, and we have a dedicated email address for those that wanted to send a direct question to the budget team regarding any information that they heard about the budget. And tonight would be the last piece of our public engagement, which is the public comment with regard to the budget. And with that, Commissioner, I turn that over to you.
Would you please, before I open it up for public comment, recite the website where citizens might access the information that you'd mentioned?
Yes, our website is www.claycountymo.gov. And there is, under government, there is, if you drop down, there is a budget and finance page, and you can go to that page and it can link you to all the documents, and you can also then get to, through our agenda management system, you can get to all the videos of all the workshops and presentations.
Thank you. Are there any citizens that would like to come forward and make any public comments on the budget that is before this commission?
Yes, my name is Deborah Herman. I'm with Northland Neighborhoods, 5340 Northeast Shoto Traffic Way. And I would just like to say thank you for those of you that are supporting NNI. We appreciate our partnership with Clay County, and we think it benefits the citizens of Clay County greatly. If you're not familiar with what NNI does, I would ask you to take a few minutes or a little time and come visit us, and we would be glad to show off. I think we're involved with a lot of things that you may not be aware of that benefit, again, the citizens of Clay County. So thank you very much.
Do you also have, I guess maybe this isn't a website night. Could you go ahead and tell us how interested persons, whether on this commission or otherwise, could access information online about NNI?
Our website is nni.org. Unfortunately, we don't have a full-time or even a part-time. I'm embarrassed to admit that for a while there, I was our chief technical, I can't even remember what they're called, so tell you how great shape we were in. It's not something we can always keep up with like we'd like to, but it's nni.org. Also, we are, if you go to that website, you can sign up for our Constant Contact, and anyone that has signed up for the Constant Contact knows they'll get invited to a lot of meetings.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other citizens wishing to come forward and comment on our budget? Are there any other citizens wishing to come forward and comment on the budget before the commission? Are there any other members of the public wishing to come forward to comment on the budget for this this year that we are in? Seeing none, that closes the public hearings. That brings us to our consent agenda. Administrator?
The consent agenda allows the commission to act upon items considered to be routine and approved in one motion. These may include items that have been reviewed by the commission in a prior session. There will be no separate discussion unless a commissioner requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. There are two items on the consent agenda this evening. One is commission meeting approval, minutes approval for December 14th, December 20th, and December 21st, and Resolution 2024-04, approving a cooperative agreement between Clay County Sheriff's Office and Kearney Police Department for the transfer of equipment of 3 cages and 3 dual gun racks.
Is there a motion?
Thank you. Move to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Motion's been made for the approval of this evening's consent agenda. Are there any comments? Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wagner.
Aye.
Commissioner Withington.
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson.
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Brings us to our regular agenda. First item on that regular agenda, and for the year for that matter, 2024-01. Please proceed.
Resolution 2024-01 is a request for waiver of fees, interest, penalties, and taxes due to county error by Marilyn Dubin. The requester is not available to be here this evening. How she has requested that we dial her in. So if, with your indulgence, if you give us just a moment, we will try and reach her on the phone so she could talk to you with regard to her request.
Okay, well, we will stand at ease for a moment while we get the applicant online to make her statement, or his statement, depending on who picks up. Hi, this is Commissioner Nolte. We are in the commission meeting room right now conducting our meeting. Is this Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, Dubin, is that the correct pronunciation?
That's correct,
We have just brought up item number 2024-01, which is your request for waiver of fees, interest, and penalties. If you would like to proceed, just identify yourself for the recording, and then please make your statement.
Okay. My name is Marilyn Dubin, and I had applied for a fee reversal for my property taxes. I'm on a limited income, and I am raising 3 grandchildren, and I have a son that is disabled, but I'm taking care of them. I don't, he's not on disability, or I take care of their needs. They do get food stamps. I don't, but that food stamps are a help, a big help. Anyway, we were doing fine, and then our economy started disintegrating, and each month I was less and less able to take care of our bills and everything. And then I came down with an illness and was in the hospital. And when I got out of the hospital, it seemed like everything fell apart. I had doctor and hospital bills, and then I had some credit cards, and with the economy, the percentage on them had gone way up, and it made them unsustainable, period. I had quit using them, but in my history, I had always had a very good credit rating and paid my bills and been responsible. As time has gone on, I just am shorter and shorter. Every month, for the first time, I missed my property taxes, and I had fees put on those each time, at the end of each month. And I was just going underwater more, and I finally was able to pay the property taxes. But when I had looked for help, I couldn't find help anywhere, and on a limited income, there's just nowhere to turn. You can't do an extra shift for more money or anything. But I had read that there was a fee reversal, that I might check about that. So that's what brought me to you all, and I filled out the papers, and they told me to be by the phone tonight, and I could plead my case, and I guess basically that is my case. I'm just looking for a little help.
Thank you. Before I ask the assessor to, the collector to come forward and make any comments, or somebody from that office, are there any questions from any members of the commission before we go forward? I see none. Excuse me, go ahead. I was just asking if any commissioners had questions of yourself before we went forward. And now we're going to hear from the collector. And so she will be on the line, and then we will ask her questions, or if there are any, and then kind of proceed with our discussion from there. So with that, collector, please proceed.
Barbara O'Reilly, collector. I do see that the funds are paid. The 22 and 23 taxes are paid. We do have an option in March.
Hold on just a second. Mrs. Dubin, can you hear okay?
Barely, but I am hearing.
Well, we're going to try to make it a little bit easier for you to hear as we proceed.
Again,
Collector, if you could just kind of start from the beginning, I want to make sure the citizen is able to hear all your comments.
Yes, my name is Barbara O'Reilly, collector, and I see that the taxes have been paid. I would offer the option that in March, we start taking prepayments, and at any time during the months through September, you could find extra funds to send in. That might help with your budgeting, and that way the taxes will not be so massive at the end of the year.
I'm sorry, I'm just not really able to hear you.
We're working on the technical here a little bit to make sure that it's a bit more, the volume's better for you.
Okay, can you hear us now?
Yes, now I can.
Very good.
Okay. Again, my name was Barbara O'Reilly. I'm the collector, and your taxes are paid. I would offer the opportunity in March, we start taking prepayments, and maybe that would help to alleviate the large amount at the end of the year. We take prepayments from March until September, and maybe that might help.
I think that would. I always had the money before to just be able to pay it at the end of the year, but I'm just had gotten to the point where I'm almost in the hole every month. So I knew I was going to have trouble with the taxes at the end of the year, but I still kept trying. But I had read also about that payment plan where I hold the money like $150 a month and put it in my account so that it's there. And yeah, I do plan on doing that.
Okay, and you can also send money to the county, and we hold it until the end of September, and then when the bills are calculated in October, November, we do apply it, and then you only have the remaining amount to pay in your December payment.
Well, that sounds even better, because then I won't have access to the money for an emergency. And I like that. Yeah, that would be even better.
Just in March, we will have this on our website, and the county will have it on their website, the process to do that, and we'd love for you to try.
Okay, now you don't send out a letter or anything. It has to be, I check on the website.
Right, mm-hmm. Yep.
I have dementia, and so my memory interferes with some of my cognitive ability sometimes. Is it at the beginning of March or in the middle? Is that the only way I can find out that you're doing that?
Yes, but it is the 1st of March, and we do not sign a contract. That way, if you can pay $25 one month, $50, and you can't pay anything the next month, or you get on a 2 weeks basis or something, that way you're not breaking any kind of contract or anything. It's just whatever works best for you.
Oh, gosh, that's good to know. Yeah, that's what I will do.
Okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, do stay on the line, by the way. We're still working through this thing. With that, as we go into discussion by the commissioners, I'm going to be recognizing Commissioner Johnson here in a moment. And then once we've had whatever questions commissioners have, I will entertain a motion related to 2024-01. In your motion, please remember to indicate the box that would be checked. With that, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, sir. You want to bring that over here? Will that be easier? Mrs. Dublin, this is Commissioner Johnson. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, let me explain something to you. First of all, I feel for your situation. I'm very sorry for the hardships that you've been going through and the fees that you've been tacked on, the penalties, which I think are astronomical. I think they're ridiculous. I think everybody on this commission thinks that way, to the point that we're seeking some changes in the law at the state level. However, you may or may not know that we do not have the authority really to make any changes or to waive any of these fees because of state law. The only time that we can waive fees if there's a fault on our part of the county collector, there's some fault on our part as to why either they didn't get paid or the fees or whatever it is. Obviously, there's no fault on our part. There's just some hardships that you went through. And because of that, we're not allowed to legally waive any of these fees. So I just got to tell you right now, I apologize for that, because I tell you, I think all of us probably would if we could, and we really feel for your situation. I will tell you, there is some good news. If you happen to be over 62, and you're probably not, you sound like you're about 32, but if you happen to be over 62, we just recently passed an ordinance, one of the biggest tax ordinances in the county's history, where senior citizens, anybody over 62, starting next year, will have their property taxes essentially frozen, which means each year when your assessment goes up and you're paying more and more in your property taxes, that should not happen anymore, essentially, to you starting next year. Does that make sense?
Yes, by the way, I'm 80. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Never would have guessed that.
That's not real estate taxes, property tax.
That's real estate taxes.
Oh, it is real estate tax.
You betcha.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, okay.
Yeah, most people.
That's great.
Most people aren't aware of that yet, so normally you're going to see them going up just about every year. Well, you shouldn't. What your assessment is, I think, this year in 2024 will be what should be continuing on. There may be some small exceptions to that, but for the most part, you shouldn't see any raises in your real estate taxes in the future.
Now, is there something I need to do to plug into that, or is that an automatic thing?
Yes, there will be, and there'll be some more information coming out on our website. You can make a call down here anytime you want, but check our website we don't have all the information out yet, but when that time comes, there will be like an application process, just to prove that you're, like I said, by the sound of your voice, I think you're 32, but just to prove you're over 62, we'll need an application process filled out so that we can take care of those taxes for you.
All right, and does that apply to the March 1st date also, that'll be available, the information?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. And the other one I can find out is just checking the website.
The application period will be in 2025.
The application period will actually be in 2025.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right.
So starting it'll actually be applied to your 2025 tax year.
Okay.
Okay? So hopefully that helps a little bit, but I'm sorry we can't waive these fees tonight just because we're bound by state law on this. And I guarantee every one of us would like to waive those fees for you, but we just can't.
Well, I understand. I was just looking somewhere else. I thought it would hurt to try.
I hear you.
Is that all you need then?
Yes, you have any more questions of us?
No, thank you for your time though.
Okay. Want me to hang up?
No, are you?
Okay, well, thank you very much, ma'am. You can go ahead and hang up now.
Well, probably be best to have her stay on until we've disposed of the matter completely. That way, in case there are any other questions as we go along.
I don't know if you can hear that. Can you still there?
No, I couldn't hear.
The presiding commissioner asked if you could stay on the line until we actually rule on this. We got to take a vote on this first.
Okay, all right.
I did have a question of the collector. What is the latitude that we have as far as the collection of it? Does it have to be paid all at once? What kind of options do we have to offer a citizen like this?
Like, any payment would have been applied to the prior years, like anything that we receive. We apply it to the oldest, and of course, if you get the oldest, in this case 22 paid, then it wouldn't be on the tax sale. So if taxpayers can keep the oldest paid up, that helps.
I mean, as far as the penalty and interest goes.
Just anything you apply that just cuts the interest. It's not the interest on the total amount, it's just on the balance due
Okay.
at any time. You know, if you pay 100, then that 100 comes off and you don't pay the interest on that.
If it's possible, could you follow up with the taxpayer and make sure that she understands
Yes.
what latitude she might have and how she might be able to handle this in a way that would be best for her?
I sure will.
Thank you very much. With that, Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Reluctantly, move to deny 2024-01 and mark boxes for denial.
Motion's been made to pass 2024-01 with the box checked denies. Further discussion? Seeing none, you're recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wagner.
Aye.
Commissioner Withington. Commissioner Lawson.
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, ma'am. Did you catch all of what had pretty much happened there?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay. So, yes, we'll go ahead and let you go now, and certainly we all regret not being able to be more helpful to you on this issue.
Well, I thought it was worth a try, but I thank y'all for your time. Did you need me to hang up now or hang on?
No, we've had our vote, so I think you can go ahead and hang up the line. However, going forward, don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have another issue that hopefully we can be more help on. But thank you for coming to us and at least making us aware of your situation.
Well, I do want to add real quick, now that it's over with, so it's not looking like I'm trying to gain favors. I was real impressed. I came down to the, no, it's not the courthouse, the city hall, and went up to to your floor, and the people that dealt with me there, well, as a matter of fact, everybody that dealt with me that day was very helpful, and very patient and kind. And I just wanted to put that forward because I was real impressed with the way I was handled.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate the fact that you were, treated in a way that that was consistent with what we would like to see.
Well, they did good. They did you proud. So, well, thank you very much for your time.
Good evening, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Okay. That brings us to our next order of business under our regular agenda. That is 2024-05. Administrator.
Resolution 2024-05 is approving the acceptance of Detection and Mitigation in Confinement Facilities Grant, COVID-19, Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, with the Sheriff's Office, and Captain Agdarian is here to provide information.
Please proceed.
Good evening, Captain Amy Agdarian, Clay County Sheriff's Office. Last fall, the Sheriff's Office applied for a grant that was administered through Department of Health and Senior Services. It was probably, I think, September, October timeframe that we applied for it when we became aware of it. And what we had hoped to do was invest in our detention center, ongoing, upkeep and detection and as the grant said, the mitigation of COVID. This is COVID money, and it was specifically designed to address some needs that we have in the kitchen and on the housing floor, some cleaning supplies, linens, bedding, clothing for the inmates, and so all of that falls under ARPA, and we applied for this grant originally in the amount of $156,000, and then at the very last minute, just as the budget was presented and proposed, we got notification that we were awarded $250,000 on this grant, which is wonderful. We are so grateful. But it resulted in us kind of throwing this onto the agenda tonight and making some quick changes, working with the auditor and the county administrator to account for that in the budget. So kind of happened real quickly, and we are asking for your approval to accept this budget, or I'm sorry, this grant funding.
Anything further?
And I would just like to add for the commission, when I started the presentation of the public hearing, I said some of the numbers had changed from what you had seen during the workshop, and this is one of the items that was changed. So we are grateful for the grant, and we were able to add that in as revenues and expenditures. So that is part of some of the changes that you saw in numbers this evening.
And specifically to that point, the reason that it was fairly easy to make this happen is there's no county match for this funding. So we just basically needed to go to the use tax where we already have enough that we can use that as a pass-through for this grant until we are reimbursed by the state. So I really want to thank County Administrator Wright and Auditor Hurlburt for helping us navigate that very, very quickly.
Very good. Are there any questions? Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Just to clarify, because these are ARPA funds coming from the state, everything has to be spent down by the end of this year?
Well, actually, this particular grant funding, the time frame is December 1st of last year to July 31st of this year.
Oh, okay.
And I believe that we'll be able to do so. We already have several projects identified, and we, there's always a need for ongoing things for the inmate care.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Move to approve 2024-05.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2024-05. Any further discussion? Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wagner.
Aye.
Commissioner Withington.
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson.
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Captain. That brings us to 2024-03, Administrator.
Resolution 2024-03 is approving the Clay County two-year assessment maintenance plan for 2024 and 2025, and Assessor Baldwin is here to provide information.
Please proceed.
Commissioners, Tracy Baldwin, Clay County Assessor. This is just our two-year maintenance plan that we do every 2 years. We are statutorily required to provide this to the state, and it basically just tells us every detail of how we're going to use the assessment funds.
Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none. Commissioner Wagner?
Thank you. Move to approve 2024-03.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2024-03. Further discussion? Seeing none, you're recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wagner.
Aye.
Commissioner Withington.
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson.
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. That brings us to 2024-02. Please proceed.
Resolution 2024-02 is approving the capital project encumbrance request with Decker Construction proposal for the replacement of the stormwater structure over New Hope Creek at Northeast 172nd Street. This is a contract that will be with Decker Construction Services, and Highway Administrator Griffin is here to explain the project.
Please proceed.
Good evening, Commissioners. Terry Griffin, Highway Administrator. This is a request to add an ARPA stormwater infrastructure project over New Hope Creek on 172nd Street. But I'd like to step back just a moment before I tell you about that project to explain why we're coming to you requesting an additional project be added. You may remember that we had a project on Fishing River at Nation Road that was a large stream bank that had collapsed and taken part of the road with it. Our original estimates were substantially higher on what the cost was going to be than what our current engineers' estimates are. And so what we'd like to do is take the additional funding that is apparently not going to be needed for that project and instead put it towards this project on 172nd Street at New Hope Creek. For the Nation Road project, we're still working with the engineer and the contractor to add some value engineering to the project. We think we'll get a better value and a better return on investment for the county in the long run by adding a couple of things to that, or a couple of pieces to that project that we had not originally anticipated being able to do. And when we have that information ready for you, we will come back to you with more details on exactly how that's going to work out. But this project that we're coming to you tonight is on New Hope Creek at New Hope Creek, and it's on 172nd Street. It's in the northeastern part of the county, just northeast of Kearney. New Hope Creek is a fairly large creek. It has several tributaries upstream, and then it flows on downstream to join Clear Creek eventually. The project will be completed by our on-call contractor, Decker Construction, and our on-call engineer, Veenstra and Kim. We'll be using the ARPA stormwater funds, and the estimated cost of this project is $1,250,000. And this includes a 10% contingency fund because of the timeline for completion on this, which I'll go into more detail about in just a moment. This is the oldest bridge in Clay County. It was originally built in 1919, and it is well past the normal life expectancy of any bridge. The structure is narrow, it's one lane, it has concrete walls. The posted weight limit on it right now is 15 tons, and then the 2021 MoDOT biannual bridge inspection, it had a 32.6% sufficiency rating. So the structure shows quite a bit of deterioration and wear throughout the entire structure. In the last century, since the bridge was built, erosion has widened and moved the channel so that the bridge now constricts the water flow rather than letting the stream flow under it the way it should. It has a pillar in what used to be the center of the stream, but is now towards one stream bank, and that pillar frequently catches debris like you see in the photograph here with almost every storm that needs to be cleaned out. And that debris that catches and stays there contributes to the erosion that we have in the channel and stream bank there. The new bridge will be 2 full lanes and about 20 feet longer than what the existing bridge is. The roadway will be raised to avoid overtopping water overtopping the bridge in storms, and we'll do some stream bank and channel improvements as well. This bridge is called as it is now, is called a Luton Arch. It was designed by Daniel Luton and Associates out of Indianapolis, and it was a very common and very cutting-edge design in the early to mid-20th century. It improved on previous designs by realigning how, well, let me just read what I said because I can probably say it better that way. It improved on previous concrete arch designs by strategic use of reinforcement where needed to address the tension load on the bridge, which enables the bridge to be considerably lighter because not as much concrete was needed to create the bridge. In 2003, MoDOT did an inventory of all the Luton Arch bridges that were found throughout the state, and they found 5 that were left, and that was in 2003. 3 of those were in Clay County, 2 of them were in Buchanan County, and those 2 have since been replaced by newer versions of a bridge. The 3 in Clay County are still here, and the bridge on 172nd Street is one of those. Because this is a historic structure, it is eligible for placement on the National Register of Historic Places, and as such, before any demo work can be done on the bridge, we have to go through additional design steps and documentation to show that we've done what we can to mitigate or avoid demolishing the bridge. In this case, we don't believe that there is any way to mitigate or not demolish the bridge, but that remains to be seen, of course, once we get all the documentation done. But because of all the state approvals and the additional documentation that has to be done, that will add at least 6 months to the design time on the bridge, and that additional design time in turn pushes construction back at least that much further. So we're probably talking about construction not starting on this bridge until sometime in 2025. We've included about a 10% contingency in the cost of the bridge, in the estimated $1.25 million on the bridge, and that is because there will be extra historical documentation that's needed. Design costs may be different than what we think, and then, of course, there's always the possibility of labor and material inflation in the next 18 months or so. So with that, that is the project, and if you have any questions, I would be glad to answer them.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. This may be a dumb question, but it's the first week of the year, so it'll be my one for the year. Can you sell it and avoid some of the delays that you have?
We would still have to go through all the historical documentation if it were possible to sell it and move it somewhere. Right now, it's the opinion of the engineer and the contractor that if we try to move it or change this, which would change the structure in some way, that it probably will not make it through, it will probably not survive the move.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Withington.
Is it because of the age or because of the design that it's historical?
The design is historical.
So we only have 3 left. Are the other 2 in just as bad condition?
I would assume so. The other 2 were built in, I believe, 1921 and 22. One is in Liberty, one is in Mosby. I'm not familiar with either of them specifically.
But they're not under our jurisdiction?
They're not under county jurisdiction, no. They belong to those cities.
There's no way to keep it for like pedestrian, if we were to put a trail eventually or something through there?
At this
I'd hate to destroy something
I know,
historical,
so do we.
right?
And it's a
So-
very, the picture was not necessarily beautiful, but it's a very gracefully designed bridge. And we'll be looking at any possibilities that we can to save the bridge or repurpose it in some way. At this point, we don't see what that might be, but we'll still be looking.
Okay, yeah, because there's not a lot of relics from the past still around,
No.
you know, as we've grown as a county, we've destroyed a lot of the historical, Avondale's got a bridge just like this that's, I don't know if it's the same design, but you can still see it from the road and everything, but yeah, I just hate destroying historical stuff. So, all right.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Move to approve 2024-02.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2024-02. Any further discussion? Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wagner.
Aye.
Commissioner Withington.
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson.
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. That brings us to 2024 Ordinance 2. Administrator?
2024 Ordinance 02 is approving amended 2024 adopted fee schedule to reflect the Midwest National Air Center FBO operations. And Park Deputy Director Davis is here to provide information.
Please proceed.
John Davis, Deputy Parks Director. Airside FBO took over January 1st of operations at the airport. Kyle Iser, I think I might mispronounce his name, sorry Kyle. But he couldn't be here tonight, but he's asking to amend the fee schedule from the one we presented last year for the heated maintenance hangars, which are the very large 80 by 80 hangars that we have down at the airport. We were going to charge by type of aircraft, which would have been single engine, double engine, jet, or helicopter. Kyle is asking us to do it by square foot. That keeps him in competition, better competition with surrounding FBOs, and potentially of being able to put more aircraft in there. You know, an average jet may be about 330 square feet, and then he could fit a helicopter or several, which are 100 or less, so more opportunity for him. And then he asked for a few services to be amended, which was to lower the cost of a lavatory service cart, which is for service of that on a jet or an aircraft. And then aircraft, or the airport attendant call-in, he asked to increase that to 200 per incident. And I'm open for questions if you have any.
Questions? Commissioner, let's see if I got this right. You know, he just made me do it. Commissioner
did it.
Johnson.
You did it. Thank you. Yes, so just to be clear, we're not being asked to approve any fee change or anything. We're just being asked to approve the changes for the names that are going to go in the lease, right? And the way I'm reading this here.
I think you might be on our next discussion, sir.
We're on 2024 Ordinance 02,
Okay,
which is approving
You have two
fees.
things. You have two things before us, huh, John? Okay, so it's a different lease. Never mind.
Okay.
Sorry about that. But I'll be asking that in the next one, just so you know.
Okay, are there any further questions? Commissioner Wagner.
Move to approve 2024 Ordinance 02.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2024 Ordinance 2. Any further discussion? Seeing none, you will recognize to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wagner.
Aye.
Commissioner Withington.
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson.
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. That brings us to 2024-06.
Resolution 2024-06 is approving the revised hangar lease agreement form for Midwest National Air Center FBO operations. Deputy County Administrator Kuntz is here to provide information.
Please proceed.
Good evening. Donna Kuntz, Deputy County Administrator. Yes, this is a request. This is it's not a revised lease. It is the addition of our vendor's name placed into our lease, whereas before, all the references when you would pay your deposits or rent a hangar, everything stated Clay County. And so this, actually, credit to our legal counsel, because legal worked very closely with our vendor, went through this. This ran past our bond counselor as well for some of the particulars of this. But this is just the addition of their name next to ours in the lease so that they can operate and rent the space for us. And it also included them under waiver of liability. And that was the change to the lease. None of the terms or anything else of the lease was changed.
Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Move to approve 2024-06.
Motion's been made for the approval of 2024-06. Any further discussion? Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wagner.
Aye.
Commissioner Withington. Yes. Commissioner Lawson.
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. That brings us, we have two budget items to now take up that we had just covered a little bit in our public hearings comments. So the first on the agenda, the next I should say, is 2024 Ordinance 1A. Administrator?
2024 Ordinance 1A is an ordinance adopting the annual budget for Clay County, Missouri for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2024, and ending on December 31st, 2024, pursuant to Section 50.525 through 50.651 of the Revised Statutes of Missouri, with the exceptions of all accounts associated with the operations of the Clay County Prosecutor's Office.
Very good. Commissioner Lawson?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. In our budget, you mentioned that we still are looking at the acquiring an engineer, but the other thing was, remember about a month ago, we discussed the $250,000 for a study that we were going to do. Is that still applicable and in our budget?
Are you talking about which study? We have several studies.
The study that, to see how our employees are being paid and...
The pay classification compensation study?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
those funds are still in there.
Okay, I have a real problem with that. We're talking $250,000. And I've said it, and I'm going to keep saying it, that in this last election, when we all ran, one of the biggest things that we discussed, besides law enforcement and roads and bridges, was being fiscally responsible for the money that people pay us. I'm sorry, I don't think this is being fiscally responsible. $250,000 for a study. I think that when I look at our people that we're paying today, and I know Diana will correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the reasons, we've lost employees. We don't seem to be able to hire new ones the way we'd like to, and those that we have, we want to retain. I see our biggest competition could be Platte County, Cass County, Jackson County. They could leave us for those different locations. So we've got some unbelievably intelligent, sharp staff. I think about your deputy administrator. That gal is on the ball. I don't understand, and maybe I'm missing the boat somewhere, why can't someone within our organization take a look at the MARC study on salaries, also start looking at what do you pay in Platte County, what do you pay in Cass County, what do you pay in Jackson County for a clerk position, blah, blah, blah. Find out what they're all paying. That lets us know whether we're in the house or we're not. And do a study of that nature, do it within-house with our capable staff, instead of going out somewhere and paying someone $250,000 to do something very similar. In my mind, I can't justify it. Now, I don't know how anybody else feels about it, and I'd like you to tell me how you feel about it, and I'm sure you will. The other thing is the engineer. You talk about $250,000 here, $75,000 for an engineer. We've got 2 people in charge out at our roads and bridges. We've got a couple of foremen. We've got inside staff. In my way of thinking, we're almost too many chiefs and not enough Indians, kind of a thing. Another person coming out there that we pay $75,000 for, between the $250 and the $75, we could fix a hell of a lot of roads. and, maybe chip and seal, maybe not all asphalt. But that's my thought, is that I think we're putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable, as they say. So I can't justify this in my mind. I'd like somebody to explain it to me and tell me why we have to spend $250,000 for this study. Anyone?
I just want to make sure we finish before I recognize Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Johnson, you are recognized.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so I understand Commissioner Lawson's frustration with this. $250,000 is a lot of money to spend on a study. And from what I understand, this is a placeholder for that. We're not approving that to be spent right now. It's a placeholder for that. It will go out to bid, and that will come back to us to approve. And at that time, I would think we can have them explain to us why it's going to cost us this much money, and we can give an up or down both ends. So I think we don't have to make any decision on that tonight. We're just deciding, hey, we're going to keep in the budget for now. They'll come back to us and explain why it costs this much. Having been through a couple of these in my prior life, I can tell you I wish it was easy as having a couple people, check around. When I went through it, both for the city of Long Beach, California, the city of Newport Beach, California, it took a team of people, probably about 6 months to complete the one we went through. And when I say a team of people, it was a team of people, 20, I can't remember how many people, a lot of people. And they were big organizations that, 1,500 employees, police department alone. And so I know it's a big job. I know there's a lot of detail in that. One of the things that we looked at is not only the salary, because I think that's important for our employees. We talk about when to pay our employees. We've got to be able to justify if we're going to. We all think they're underpaid. This would help us to show that they're underpaid. But the other thing, when you talk about being top-heavy, one of the things that came out in the salary study that we looked at was it shows that. It's that, hey, you're too top-heavy or you don't have enough supervision, which is another thing that could help justify having more or less people at the top. They might even tell us we have too many commissioners. I don't know, but I know they're expensive, and I know it sounds like a lot of money, but it's one of those things. If you want to do it, I think you have to spend the money. But I agree, we need to have them justify to us. Hey, why is it going to cost us this much money? And hopefully it's less than that. Hopefully the bids come in less than that. But I think it's important to know that we're not approving this tonight. We're just kind of approving the placeholder. They will come back and justify. Correct me if I'm wrong, Administrator, but they will come back and we can justify what it's going to cost and why in the future, right?
That's absolutely correct. I mean, there will be a formal bid process, which will be done to vet the consultant that we would recommend to do the project, and they would be before the commission explaining just exactly what is entailed to do the project and the timetable.
Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. I appreciate Commissioner Johnson's comments, and I'll kind of go on those coattails with a couple of additional comments. To my knowledge, as I understand it, the last time such a survey was done was back in 2008, if I'm not mistaken. One can imagine that 2008 study is worthless, even though we have fantastic people in our county. If we were to simply say, rely on what you have won't say anything of any value. And I would note that it's not just a matter of looking at what other counties, what other cities are doing, but my expectation of such a survey or such work is to look internally as well. As I think everyone has heard me harp during this entire process, we have a lot of vacancies and a lot of dead money. And once again, I'll just warn you all, I'm coming on that issue this year. It's just coming. But part of what I think drives that issue is even internally, what do those things look like? And is someone who's essentially doing the same job being paid more or less than some other person in another department? And how do you then justify, if you equalize that, and how do you justify changes that you're going to make? Well, we've got a lot of smart people, but unless there's a document that you can go to that says, this is what it is, and this is what you're dealing with, then it may have the trappings of looking like, any change may have a trapping of looking like something that's arbitrary. And to me, having something that provides guidance, not only externally but internally, has a value. Now, the question is, does it have $250,000 worth of value? I don't know. But I think to our colleagues' comments, that's a placeholder. And then you see what you get, right? I would just note that in a world that hasn't gotten any cheaper, that probably hasn't gotten any cheaper either, but to the question of is there value for this organization, I would say and argue, yes, there is. And a value that has at least a 5 to 10 year sunset, right? Hopefully more like 10, but that's a one-time item you spend that hopefully provides a lot of value down the road. To the other question, I would just note, and this is something that we dealt with in my prior elected service, at some point you got to start thinking about the future, you know, and I have not asked anyone's age in this organization, and I am not about to, but I do know that at some point people will move on. And when that happens, are you prepared for that, or are you not? And I would just simply argue that if this is one of the reasons to add that position, I would say better to have that succession in mind and better to kind of forecast what your future will be as opposed to potentially bringing a lot of issue and potential disruption to a department. So that's my best shot at answering those questions, and those are the reasons why I would support those two items. I will just, since I got this for a moment, just to throw it out there, if I understand as far as our increase in revenue, I will simply throw out the notion that if there is an opportunity, or I'll say it this way, it's strange to me that any jurisdiction, whether it's a city or a county, does not support some sort of economic development entity. So I will at least say, I won't say a number, but I will at least say there, if the true up from the end of 2023 is in the positive, I would at least make an argument to say, is there something that we can bring back to the Clay County EDC? I'll let us all debate if that has merit, what that value should be, but I would at least introduce the notion that if we have that opportunity, then I would ask for some sort of support for them. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'd like to add a couple of things to what Commissioner Wagner said. First off, yeah, I think we should be not abandoning the idea of economic development in this county. We are too big to not have some kind of an economic development plan. And I think that's just something we ought to be looking at seriously, and that we should not leave that subject completely. On the wage study, I think it is very valuable for us to have a third-party expert come forward and give us guidance, because otherwise, as Commissioner Wagner said, it could have the appearance, not necessarily substance of, but it could have the appearance of having an arbitrary quality to it. Being able to point to outside professionals who have given us an opinion, whether we follow that opinion or not, obviously, is a different matter. But at least we have something to where we can say we did our due diligence, we went outside our organization, and we came up with a plan that was put together by professionals. Again, as far as the dollar amount goes, that's what the bidding process is about. We want to get our lowest but best bid that can get this job done, and the only way we're really going to know that number is by putting it out for bid and seeing what the marketplace dictates to us as far as the value attached to that as far as being able to purchase it goes. With that, I'd like to go ahead and go to Commissioner Carpenter.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Just quickly on the salary study, I just want to also highlight what Commissioners Johnson and Wagner said about hopefully we, through a competitive bid process, get it lower than that. I totally agree that we have an issue. There's an issue in the country of overly padding the pockets of consultants and having that run up the cost, especially on public projects, government projects. And so why it's all the more important to be as aggressive as we can on the, bid process to make sure we're hearing from as many folks as we can. I will say one thought on it. I could be misremembering this, but I like to support my sheriff's office anytime we can. And one of the things I recall Sheriff Aiken discussing was that on his non-sworn employees, it's harder to have publicly accessible information with regard to salaries there. It's easier on the sworn officers. There's more publicly available information. And so I recall him seeing some benefit for his non-sworn officers to try to get a gauge on that. So I support keeping it in, and hopefully we'll get as cost efficient as we can. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Withington.
Yeah, I just want to say I also approve the wage or the salary study, but I hope it's a study that we can actually implement. I think probably Commissioner Wagner probably knows from his time in Kansas City how many hundreds of thousands of dollars get wasted on studies that never get implemented, and then it sits on a piece, especially in the Parks Department, right? How many master plans get done and then they sit on a bookshelf, and when it's time to finally get funding, what happens? We got to update the master plan and you start the cycle. So hopefully this is something that we can actually implement. As for the engineer, I'm absolutely in favor of hiring an engineer for the highway department. Our roads are crap, and we've been saying that for a year since I've been up here. I've been saying that our roads are terrible. So getting a fresh set of eyes in that department hopefully can bring about some new ideas. The whole department needs to be changed, and I think that getting some new eyes is great. As for the EDC, I'm fine with exactly how our budget is. I support moving that money over to the prosecutor's office. So I'm fine with the budget as is.
Thank you. Before I recognize Commissioner Lawson, I want to remind the public that certainly you are available to come up and comment on this. We've had our discussion up here, and it's been, I think, a good one. But I didn't want to leave the impression that if even outside of even though we've had our public hearing on the budget, if there are any comments from members of the public on this issue, certainly we would be very happy to hear them before we call this for a vote. So I'm going to ask for any member of the public before I solicit a motion on this issue. With that, Commissioner Lawson.
Okay, yeah. Well, I guess I'm fighting a losing battle here, but the bottom line is when this study, if that's what's going to happen, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire, ladies and gentlemen, that we have a number of these people that apply for the study. I know it seems like we put out bids and we can't get anybody to respond anymore. We're just one or two people respond. But I'd like to see more, and I'd like to see people respond, and we look kindly, if we're going to do this, at people within the county, if there is anyone in Clay County that does it, versus getting somebody from 3 states away to do it. But I also think that we need to scrutinize that then very closely and very cautiously to make sure that we're going to get our money's worth, that the company can bring us some information as to what kind of studies they've done of like kind. And so I'd like to see a heck of a lot more involvement on this commission's part when we go out to bid on this. On the engineer, I'm not going to say I'm not voting for the budget, but I'm just saying I think it's a waste at this point in time. We do need to prepare for the eventuality of, say, someone retiring or going somewhere else. Yeah, we need to be prepared for that, but I think this is too much too soon, but that's fine. That's the wish of the commission. I'll gladly go along with that one. On the The EDC portion, I'm with Commissioner Withington on that one.
Commissioner Withington.
Yeah, I just have one last thing to say. While we have Deb and Mr. Mecklenburg here, I sent you guys an email on 12/22. I never heard back from you guys. I sent it to you and most of your board. I just want you guys to know that nobody, no one was attacking NNI. No one was asking to cut your funding. I just want to clear that up. The only reason I proposed splitting it 50-50 with Rebuilding Together KC is you guys do the same amount of work, and we have to discuss that in public. We can't have private conversations. That's against the Sunshine Law. So I just wanted to clear that up with you guys. And, like I said, I sent you guys an email, and I never heard back from any of you guys, so.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, thank you, sir. Regarding the, excuse me, EDC, David Slater here tonight, and David, I think, appreciate you coming here tonight, but he spoke earlier in the public comment, but I actually did have a couple of questions for Mr. Slater, if you don't mind, if I can ask you. So David's,
Yes, I'm sorry, you were looking at me, but yes, my understanding is, obviously, I think these would be in order, were they not, Mr. Counselor? I see your questions. What I anticipate might be your questions as being in order, so please proceed.
So David Slater, you're the executive director of the Clay County Economic Development Council.
Yes, sir.
Right? Okay. And on that council, there's a executive committee.
Correct.
How many are on that?
7.
7. There's 7 voting members.
No, there's 5. The presiding commissioner and the past chair advisor do not vote.
The presiding commissioner
And the past chair advisor,
Do
they
not
can make
have a vote.
recommendations, but they don't have a vote.
So there's 5 votes.
Yes.
Do you have a vote?
No.
Okay, can you tell me, and this is kind of what's been baffling me the whole time, and,
Sure.
and you know the history here, and one of the things we talked about kind of last year, when we approved the budget for last year, and it was, to be exact, it was a 5-1 vote. It's like, hey, in the future, we want more of a say-so in the selection of who represents us on the executive committee. And the request from us was simply, hey, we would like to select our own representative. It could be the presiding commission, it could be anybody, but we'd like to, some of us would like to make that selection ourselves. You guys absolutely have refused that. Can you tell me why?
Correct. Because the county commission will change year after year, and we don't want to change our bylaws just at the whim of a new county commission. I mean, in 2 years, 4 of you guys could be retired or out and want to change it again. So
No, you don't have to change, you only have to change it once, just to have the bylaws state that the position will be filled by someone elected by the commission.
Right, and our board has voted not to do that.
I know, and so that's why I don't understand why. That argument that you'd have to change it every year, it doesn't make sense, because you wouldn't have to do that. You could change the bylaws to make it that person whoever we elect.
Yeah, well, our board wants to be the presiding commissioner, our exec board and our full board.
Okay, but they don't want to say why?
No, I told you why, because they don't want to just change it every time the county commission gets a whim. It's an economic development council that has been funded by the county. In fact, probably 15 years ago, it was $1 a person. So we'd be talking about $260,000 in your budget.
So, you know, if you really want to work with us, there's ways around that. First of all, the presiding commissioner serves for 4 years. Every commissioner serves for 4 years, except for the exception because of the new constitution, but it's 4 years. So you could just state it's served for, it's a 4-year service for whoever's selected by this commission.
They could if that's what the board chose, but the board did not choose to do that.
Okay, so the board doesn't want to cooperate. This is the issue that I had. The board doesn't want to cooperate. They don't want to tell us why. The excuses are, quite frankly, lame. There's something more to it, which is a red flag, and it's like, this is what is kind of frustrating. I want to work with the EDC, but the EDC doesn't want to work with us. There's just, there's no give and take here. It's like, give me $100,000 and we're going to do it our way. That's not how I want to operate. And so I want to give you an opportunity to say, hey, this is why. This is the legitimate reason why we don't want you guys to select your own representation.
I will tell you a concern of mine that is not representing the board, but we had our public hearings, and apparently my chairwoman, who's a volunteer, got ripped on Facebook. Now, I'm not allowed to be on Mr. Withington's page anymore. He's canceled me. But we don't need that. She does not need that. Our board does not need it. Our reputation does not need that. And if you guys went up here, the other 6 of you sat up here and said, that's okay, which you did by not saying anything, that's not okay.
Okay, so then what if Commissioner Withington wins the presiding commissioner spot? Next
Then
go
he
around?
would have a seat on the board.
So you wouldn't change the bylaws then?
No.
Okay,
No.
so that has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with Commissioner Withington, because he could be elected that position as well.
He sure could.
So then, again, that argument doesn't hold water. And I don't want to make this an argument in public here, but I guess I want to say that that's a frustration I have, and this is why we're in this position, because is there anybody here from the Executive Commission here tonight?
Other than Commissioner Noli, no.
Yeah, and that's disappointing as well, because I would really like to know why they would vote against that. There's 7 of us here. We should be able to pick who represent us.
You were in that board meeting when they decided to vote against it unanimously. You were there.
The board meeting at
At the EDC, yes.
That was the board meeting that was at the award ceremony.
No. 3 months before that. It'd been the September one. At the iWorks office.
And that,
You were there, and you were talking to Commissioner Lawson beforehand, because apparently you got lost or couldn't find it, or some reason something came up, you could not be there.
She got
But
stuck
you
in traffic.
But you were there, you had the opportunity to speak, and.
Okay, there was no
you had-
vote taken there.
Sure there was.
No, there wasn't.
Okay.
There was no vote on this matter taken there.
Okay.
Do you have the records of that?
I can get them to you,
I would love to see
absolutely.
that, because I
I
certainly
will,
didn't
sir.
vote it. As a matter of fact, I did more than, I wrote a letter to you and the entire executive council as to my opinion on this.
I know
and
you
to
did.
why we should have the sex. So, I mean, I don't want to argue with you. So the bottom line is you guys don't care to let us have a choice.
Correct.
Okay, we're done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other
Commissioner
questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me
Yeah.
see if there's some
We'll-
clarification.
We'll send those minutes to Diana, and she can distribute them.
I'm sorry.
I said we will send those minutes to Diana, and she can distribute them.
Okay.
Okay?
Commissioner Lawson?
Yes, Dave?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That's
don't go
okay.
away.
That's okay. A couple of things. We were all, and I want you to understand this, we were all under the impression that initially, when Jerry had made the suggestion that, it would be Commissioner Wagner that would be the second person on the board,
Correct.
we were under the impression that that was agreed to by the board already. So, and at the time, the reason that I switched that was that at the time, Commissioner Withington had some concerns, and I thought, hey, wait a minute. We put him on the board. He can see firsthand the work that you're doing, and that would negate him having a negative problem, and the whole board would vote together,
Sure.
for one person. I guess I do have a major problem with why, after we put Jason as our second on the board, all of a sudden, it just wasn't going to be done. The other thing that concerned me was the fact that you're talking about forming a joint group with Platte County.
Yes.
And so here's my concern there. We're fighting hard enough to get businesses to come to Clay County. I'm not seeing huge numbers of people just running across the bridge to get here and start businesses. So we're fighting tooth and nail against Clay County, against Platte County, against everybody to bring the economic growth to Clay County. That's our job too, as well as
Correct.
yours. And consequently, you form a liaison with Platte County, and all of a sudden, a big business is coming into town. We want our share, they want their share. If you're a formed group with them, how are we going to get top billing?
That would be part of the governance, and we've got no need to merge with them. It's something they approached us with, and it will not happen unless it's in the best interest of the county. And the whole thought behind it was a strength in numbers, where you have 400,000 people instead of 260,000 people working towards bringing stuff in. And as far as what's going into the county, a lot of you went to the state of the cities. You see what's happening, and you see what's the biggest problem in Clay County right now is Kansas City, and the fact that they've got so many pieces of red tape down there that it's just hard to get things done. I mean, the 587, as fast as that thing's moving, we're jumping through a lot of hurdles, and Liberty can put some industrial building in that would take Kansas City years to approve, and it's happening.
Yeah,
And
but
so,
that isn't really, I guess, I just don't see, I don't see why I want to support Platte County, I guess is my concern.
Right.
That's my major concern. I want it to be Clay County, that's it. I want everybody fighting as hard as they can at the EDC to bring businesses to Clay County. Could give a care about Platte County, frankly. So that was number one concern. The second concern was the fact, as Commissioner Johnson said, we as a group wanted good representation. We got Jerry. We want one more person because the whole makeup of this commission has changed. We're not 3 anymore. Now we're 7.
Right.
So I think it's important that on the executive board, we have 2 people. And I feel that was our request. We weren't saying, we're coming down there and we're taking over. We're saying we want 2 people to work with you as a team, the whole thing, to bring for the betterment of Clay County. And I felt, in my opinion, that it was a slap in the face when we were said, nope, we're not going to do it. When we were all under the impression that it was okey-doke as long as it was Commissioner Wagner. But once it wasn't him, then can't do it. That you can't have it. You can't, as a commission, have a voice. And that's just my feeling. You know, I have nothing against the EDC, have nothing against you personally. I just feel like I'm fighting for our rights.
Sure.
And what we'd like to see happen. So that's just my opinion.
I appreciate it, and respect it.
Commissioner Withington.
On December 20th or the 21st, did you speak at the Northland Chamber of Commerce?
Probably.
Did you talk bad about this commission?
I don't think so.
Well, there was about 40 or 50 people in the room who would disagree with that.
Okay.
So, who did you say I trashed on social media?
Julie Sola.
When?
I don't know when, because
No,
you blocked me off your
I didn't say a
page.
damn thing about Julie Sola.
Okay.
Not a damn thing.
Okay.
So, the last post that I had about the EDC was 4 days ago. That's after you trashed this entire commission at the Northland Chamber. And here's what it says. It says, some have probably heard by now that the county commission decided not to continue providing funding for the Northland Chamber, or the Northland EDC, Clay County EDC. Now EDC Director Dave Slater is running around the county trashing this commission. Recently he spoke at the Northland Chamber of Commerce and he said, he trashed us and said, quote, elections have consequences. And then all I said was, before you take my word for it, or Director Slater's word for it, I would encourage everyone to go back and watch our YouTube videos of our commission meetings from May 4th, 7th, 19th, and 21st. Now, this isn't the first time I've heard you say that I trashed Julie Sola. So I went back and I looked at every damn post for Sola. Not one post trashed Julie Sola. So don't come up here telling us that I'm trashing people on social media when it's not true. You're the one going around trashing this entire commission. This commission isn't trashing you.
Did you trash our chair?
Who?
Our chairwoman. Did you call her the chairwoman or Julie Sola? Go check for EDC chairwoman on your post. See what comes up.
I already have checked.
No, you checked for Sola, you just said.
Oh, yeah, I would have said Chairwoman Sola or Julie Sola. Either way, Sola's going to come up.
Okay. Very good.
That's not being a partner.
Okay.
Have you concluded?
I'm done. I'm done with him.
Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. And I appreciate the conversation my last remark stimulated. So, but that's why I put it out there, because I think it's important to put it out there. You know, I'll come from this from the standpoint of, you know, I've done a lot of work over the years with the EDC. I go back to 1994, my senior year of college, when I was an administrative assistant back in the days when it was located where Cerner had their headquarters until just recently. So I even found some of the old stuff. I mean, I'm really becoming a hoarder, I think. But whether it's that or when I was with the city of Kansas City as a councilman and worked with the EDC to expand 210, which was a $10 million project, and Kansas City put in about $3 million to that project. So, you know, when I say I understand the value and I understand what can be done with an EDC, I have put my money where my mouth is, and at least my senior year of college into it too. Having said all of that, I'll just, you know, and David, I've known you a lot of years too.
Yeah.
So I wish to put a constructive criticism. And I say, and I use that term because I believe there is great value in what the EDC does. But one thing that strikes me as I look back at the comments you made earlier tonight and what has been said here, there's been kind of an unsaid concept that's very important here, and that is building relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And you've used many examples, even of your recent work, about how important those relationships are in pushing forward the mission of the Clay County EDC as well as the mission of the county, which I think everyone here would say, we're all about economic development here. We want to see activity here.
Right.
But what I see is missing is the building of relationships that has occurred everywhere else has not happened here. And I guess my challenge to you and to the board, and I have great respect for Kirk Davis, I think he's going to do a wonderful job as the new chairman, is if we're not building relationships with the group that's funding a third of the operation, and we're having trouble in understanding why isn't there trust, why isn't there this, why isn't there that, to me I go back to, you know, I got 28 years of relationship with the KC or the Clay County EDC. I go that far back. I would probably say if you were to add everybody in this room together, you're not going to get 28 years.
Right.
Right? I have a level of trust because I have that time. But my challenge to you is, because I kind of get a sense of where the breeze is blowing here, and that's okay. My challenge is simply, if you can build a relationship where a city councilman from Kansas City is taking on a major aspect of what the Clay County EDC is doing, but no one on this board is, or we are not as engaged, I don't want to say whose fault that is. I just know that's a problem. And my challenge would be to you and to the board is, how can we build a relationship where we are having connectivity, not just in December and January, but throughout the year? How is it that we can be more engaged in understanding what it is the EDC is doing, and therefore how we, as a commission, can enhance that and make it more possible to achieve whatever it is the EDC wants to achieve? I read through, as I was corrected, I think the last time, talking about the strategic plan. It is, the strategic plan I saw is what I would expect an EDC to have.
Mm-hmm.
What is our role to help make that happen? I don't know. And I would just say, to the extent that we can rebuild those relationships, I, for one, am all about it. And I've not met a restaurant that I didn't want to visit, thank you very much. And even if I have to pay for my meal, which I don't mind, because somebody should, building the relationship between now and the end of this year makes a conversation about what do you do in a future budget a much easier conversation, I believe. I've been accused of being in politics too long, so, and they're probably right. But it just seems to me, if the key to success is relationship building, man, we got a lot of relationship to build here. And it's not going to be done tonight. It has to be invested in with time and effort over the course of this year. But I do appreciate you being here, and I do appreciate the work you do and what that board does. Clearly, there's a bit way to go, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, challenge accepted. Thank you. Second of all, every single one of you had input on the strategic plan. Okay, right? And so you got to help guide that. And I'm also say that once a month, I build a relationship with the Kansas City city manager that we have a breakfast on First Friday, and Commissioner Nolte's there. You've been there a couple times. And the discussion, 587. And so if we're not getting that back to commission, I'm going to challenge you guys to let them have updates of where we're at. Right now, where it is Councilman O'Neill's trying to get that adopted into the plan. That's his committee. And that Pasanelli, or whatever, how you say it, is trying to get a TIF done for him. And again, we've got the problem with the Kansas City TIF Commission. We've got huge problems down in Kansas City. And until those get answered, we've got issues. But yeah, I'll take that challenge.
Commissioner Withington, oh, hold on. Hold on just a second, there you go. Now you're on.
So, January 19th, 2023.
Okay.
I said about our budgeting process. There's one comment about Julie Sola. And in here, I said, I'm scrolling through, it's a whole bunch. I said, at our January 11th meeting, Clay County EDC Executive Director David Slater told the commission during my questioning about how you guys were going to spend the money, remember when we did that presentation, quote, our board will decide what we will do if we get it. You said that, that's on YouTube now.
Right.
It's part of public record.
That's fine.
And then I put a link, and then I said, in July, Mr. Slater sent a funding request to the county budget team, which I was provided by our county administrator, saying that you were going to use it for, quote, housing and labor shed study. Then I said, when you guys gave your presentation, that was never discussed. And here's the only thing that was ever mentioned about Julie. It said, Chairwoman Julie Sola suggested that the EDC would use the funding for, quote, marketing of cities, Cerner campus, and airports, as well as to update the EDC strategic plan and for general operating expenses. But also told the commission that the EDC board hasn't decided how those funds would be sent.
Okay.
How's that trashing her?
I'm going to have to get with her and find out exactly
Well,
where she found
can
it.
She can reach out to me. I talked to her on the phone a few months ago. She has my email. She
Okay.
can reach out to me. Not once did I trash her.
Okay.
So you stand corrected.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson, you're recognized.
Yeah, just one more comment, just to piggyback on what Commissioner Wagner was saying, and I agree 100% with what you're saying. But I might just make another suggestion, and that's that I would like to see the EDC evolve a little more. The EDC, you mentioned earlier in your comments that you've had in your bylaws, you've had the rule that the presiding commissioner will sit on the executive board. You've had that in your bylaws since the 1960s or something?
Right, when they formed
Yeah.
EDC.
So my interpretation is that you're doing it because that's the way you've always done it, and which is poor business. You don't do things just because that's the way you've always done it. If we were in that same boat, there'd only be 3 of us up here, and there's not. We've evolved. This commission has evolved. The county is evolving. I might suggest that the EDC should maybe look at those bylaws and maybe evolve as well, and see how that evolution can work more closely with this commission, and maybe we can make something, a little synergy with that, if you will. Because right now, I don't think we're feeling that, and I think that's really at the core of it. So just a suggestion to you.
Very good.
Appreciate you being here.
Mhm. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any, do you have anything to add, Mr.
No,
Slater?
I'm good.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to make any comment on the budget that we have before us? That is to say, the portion on 1A. We do have another portion coming up under 1B. So is there anyone from the public who would like to make comment on the budget proposal that we have on the table? Seeing none, is there a motion? Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Move to approve 2024 Ordinance 1A.
Motion has been made for the approval of the approval of 2024 Ordinance 1A. Further discussion? Seeing none, you will recognize to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wagner.
Aye.
Commissioner Withington.
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson.
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. That brings us to the second portion of our budget, and that would be 2024 Ordinance 1B. Administrator?
2024 Ordinance 1B is an ordinance adopting the annual budget of Clay County, Missouri for the fiscal year beginning on January 1st, 2024, and ending on December 31st, 2024, pursuant to Section 50.525 through 50.651 of the Revised Statutes of Missouri for all accounts associated with the operation of the Clay County Prosecutor's Office.
Thank you. Is there any commissioner who would like to either make comment or have a question related to 2024 Ordinance 1B? Seeing none, is there a motion? Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Move to approve 2024 Ordinance 1B.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2024 Ordinance 1B. Any further discussion? Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, just real quickly, I would like everyone to see, that's what the budget is, and that's what our county administrator and staff and a lot of people, Victor, a lot of people had a hand in this. And I just want to say that's a lot of work. They did a tremendous job with this. This is what we've just approved, or we're going to finish approving right now. They did a tremendous job on this, and I just want to thank them. It really reflected, I think, what we wanted and what the citizens wanted. And not only with this, but the presentations that you did along the way were extremely professional. The budget process was very professional. The transparency and the ability to allow the public see it and still see it if they want and go back and view it as many times as they want was very professional, very transparent. And I just can't say enough good things about how this process went this year. And so I just want to thank the staff, everybody who was involved in this for the great work they did on this. And people need to know that's a lot of work. So thank you for that.
I'd like to echo Commissioner Johnson's remarks. I've been through a number of budgets, both here and in other political subdivisions, and I've got to tell you, this process has improved dramatically over where it was just a handful of years ago. The transparency is much better. The ability for commissioners to participate, I think, is enhanced, I feel. And I think we are really becoming the professional government we need to become. I put that down to, first and foremost, our administrator, our auditor, all the other office holders, and the staff. They've done, as you say, they've done yeoman's work in putting together a document that we're never going to put together a document everybody is 100% on. But we put together a budget that I think responsibly expresses our stewardship of the people's money, which is first and foremost what our responsibility is to be guardians of the trust of the public, and that trust in this case is in the form of their tax dollars. So certainly, and this is, I'm glad you brought that up, because this would be kind of the appropriate time as we get ready to do the final vote on budget. This is certainly the time for us to express that gratitude. I want to also say that I think that one of the things that has helped this is the fact that we do have our new Constitution. Two of the things I think that have contributed to this process that are in our Constitution is an expanded commission, because we have more points of view being brought to bear, more people who have expertise in specific areas, and I think that's invaluable when it comes to our commission, and the fact that our administrator has a clear-cut set of responsibilities, and she has, her job is outlined. It's not at the whim of whatever a current commission thinks. So I think the fact that we have a structural apparatus put together that allows us to come up with a budget, or I should say staff to come up with a budget of this quality, is certainly a reflection of not just the people, but of the process that we are now in. And I would be remiss if I didn't call out the counselor, since he had a good deal to do with our present Constitution. And I think we're working under a structure finally that allows us to be the first-class county that we need to be. So I would just like to express my thanks to all involved. We are balanced, we are on time, and I just want to say I am just grateful for all the work that everybody has done along this process. There's a motion, of course, on the floor. I wanted to see if anyone else had any comments before I call on Commissioner Wagner to close. Commissioner Wagner.
I close.
Too late now, folks. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wagner.
Aye.
Commissioner Withington.
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson.
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
I recuse myself.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes, 5 in favor, 1 recusal.
Thank you. That concludes our regular agenda. By the way, just as a reminder, Administrator, there is one of the items that we passed that will require the signature of all commissioners. Is that not correct? Thought there was one that I was told that required all of our signatures. Yes. I say that mainly as a reminder. I try to communicate that to all the commissioners, but in the excitement of heading home to our loved ones, sometimes it gets missed. Yeah, it's a statutory requirement. Very good. That concludes that part of the agenda. Next, we have discussion. We have 2 items. The first one is roads in, excuse me, I'm sorry, roads in the Long Road area. That is Commissioner Lawson's discussion item. Commissioner, if you would like to kick this off,
Yeah,
please proceed.
Yes, thank you very much. Recently, I had some phone calls from a number of individuals that are back on Rhine King. It's a road that comes off of Long. And if you just keep following Long around, it goes into many iterations and ends up on Rhine King. One of the things I was kind of surprised at was that we had a road that was such a key, if you want to call it a inner road, between 2 major roads that was still gravel, number one. I've heard a lot of reasons why it was still gravel, but nevertheless, I think, this is a road where some people had been promised that this road would be chip and sealed in '23, and that never happened. In my previous life as an account executive, you didn't dare make a promise to a customer and not keep that promise. That was like your death, instant death, if you did that. We're no different here. When we make a promise to the citizens, it's not only the people we serve, but in essence, they are our bosses. And I would never go to my boss and say, I'm going to do this, and then say, I'm not going to do it. You make that commitment and you follow it up. These folks have heard commitment after commitment about the road, and nothing's ever happened on it. It's still gravel. Yes, new gravel goes down. Yeah, I went right after it had been bladed. It was a bad rain, and I drove up that road at their request. And there were potholes that could have swallowed my car that had formed again just because of the rain that washes that gravel off. So, there's a number of homes on there. It's not like it's all farmland or anything. There are homes, and there are premier homes on that land. And like I've said before with other roads, I don't care how much someone's home is. It's the fact that there's citizens out there that are paying the taxes, spending their money, paying their sales tax, and all of that needs to go back and fix these roads, especially one like this that is in deplorable condition. There was one day, it was mud for a long period of area that there was nothing but mud, because the gravel had all washed off. Luckily, some gravel had been put back down. The gravel keeps coming, but it doesn't solve the problem. So, after listening to everybody, I told them, come in and tell your story before the rest of the commission, because it's easy when I'm up here complaining and crybabying about a road. Nobody pays much attention because I'm always complaining about something. But when the citizens come in and they're talking to you and they let you know what a mess their road is and how they're just fed up with the way it is, I think that's more impactful. So I'm going to turn it over to anyone that wants to come up that's in this general area and talk a little bit about the road, the commitments that have been made and not kept, and what they'd like to see happen. Their road isn't scheduled until '25. Supposed to be done in '23, wasn't. not going to be done in '24, not going to be done till '25. I sincerely would like to see that road be moved up. I know we can alter things because we've done it before, and I'd like to see something done to get this road corrected. So with that, folks, the floor is yours.
Well,
Oh, I'm
actually,
sorry.
it's not yours to give.
Oh, I apologize. It's his to give. I keep forgetting.
What I want to do is I want to go ahead and make sure that commissioners are up to speed before our citizens come forward and see if there are any questions of you on this subject. And I see Commissioner Johnson is seeking recognition, so please proceed.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Lawson, can you be more specific on what the road is, which?
Yes.
I'm trying to look it up on the map, actually.
Yeah, it's Ryan King is the primary one that's really, really bad. If you come off, if you're on 92 highway and you turn on Long, and you come on Long, it's real nice blacktop at the beginning, and then it starts deteriorating. And it kind of makes a different, it becomes, I think it's Belmont, and then it's Ryan King, 139th. There's a whole bunch of roads that it winds around, kind of like 184th did. It turns into all different roads. Let's see. It doesn't, I don't see the roads though. 92, and then where's Long?
That's Long coming off of 92.
Yeah, I'll go back.
So you're going south on Long from 92?
Yeah.
So it turns, then it turns on 142, then Belmont Road.
It's like, it says Dawes Hereford Farm, then it goes to Belmont, then down to 140th, then Ryan King, 139th, and then it ends up going over to Eastern.
And what part of that is the bad part? All of that?
Yeah, Ryan King is the worst of all. Belmont isn't great. After you leave Long, right around that curve by where it says Dawes Hereford Farm and starts Belmont Road, then it's pretty bad. But the worst of the bunch is Ryan King. It's hideous,
Okay,
to say the least.
thank you. And then one more question I have for Commissioner Lawson. You talked about a promise that was made. Can you expand on that? Who made that promise to who? I don't remember what that was about.
According to the one person that it was made to, it was done by our Carl. The
To one of our,
head of, yeah.
one of the people who live there?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions of Commissioner Lawson before we invite members of the public forward? Seeing none, are there any citizens who would wish to join this discussion? If so, as I said, just as a reminder, make sure that the button is pushed so that the caller is, the green light is on. State your name and then speak directly in the microphone and proceed when you are ready. There you go.
Yeah, hey, thanks for the opportunity. My name's Jim Godwin. I live on the gravel road that we're discussing. So I live at the corner of Ryan King Road and 139th Street. So Commissioner Johnson, you might see it's the road that looks like a stair step, right? There's about 4 or 5 steps in there. Yeah. This road is an artery that connects 2 roads. Those people coming from 291, and I know this because I used to live off of 291 in the Brentwood Crossing subdivision. As you go off of 291 north on Eastern, okay, which is a asphalt road, and you're trying to make your way to Smithville, the artery that connects that stair step up to 92 is this road, right? It's also the gravel road that was featured on this slide that you guys saw in part of the workshop. It was a bit ironic because this part of the road that was featured, we literally call where we live 150 potholes in 150 feet. And it's not an exaggeration, it's literal. We have video of the 150 potholes in the 150 feet in that section. This gravel road is dangerous, right? It's vehicle damaging. It's in constant state of needing repair, right? I appreciate the repairs that just took place in the last 30 days. The Highway Department has been out there 4 times to fix portions of the road, right? Yesterday, they did just put some additional gravel down after doing grading the day before. I'll say that the grading that happened the day before, I took a picture. You can still see the potholes after the grading because the potholes are so deep, right? And so now there's new gravel on it. It looks nice. It's well suited for pictures, but it's not the reality that will be after this coming winter storm, right? And that's the difficulty that we live with over 12 months, right? It gets repaired. It's good for 30 days if it doesn't rain. If it rains, it's a mess until they come back and fix it again. I was going to describe to you the streets, but it seems that everyone is familiar with it, going from Eastern up to 92. We bought the land that we built our house on about 5 years ago. And at that time, one of the first things we heard was, hey, don't worry about the road. There's plans to fix the road. Sometimes those plans were said to be, hey, it's going to be chip and sealed. Hey, it's going to be asphalted. But the plans were always just, I heard, right? Or someone said that they're going to do this. And so we waited, and nothing ever happened, right? The result was always the same. No action, only a road that was continuing to deteriorate and be more dangerous. So I was excited to hear when there was going to be a workshop. Right, and I don't know if this was the first workshop of this sort where you went through the plan, but I was excited to hear that, and actually took hours off of work to listen in that day to the plan. So I'm thankful to all of you commissioners for making those virtual sessions available to us, right? Because while I could take hours off of work, I couldn't come physically sit here, but I could sit in front of my computer and listen to what was being said. I'm also thankful for all of you that I hear you speak about road improvements, right? And Commissioner Withington, it cracks me up every time you say the road is crap, but it's true. The roads are crap. And so I appreciate that everyone is fighting for the roads. I was glad to hear during that workshop when Commissioner Lawson brought up the gravel roads, and our roads specifically. Based on what I heard from the presentations, gravel roads are the lowest level of road that we have in the county, right? So low that the Highway Department does not even consider them a part of the road grading process. So when I looked at the chart that said we grade the roads 1 through 5, that's not gravel roads, right? Because they're not even part of that. And I believe it was noted during the presentations that all gravel roads are considered 0. So the lowest of the low. I, like you, find it hard to believe that Clay County still has gravel roads. And I looked at the map at where the gravel roads are, and I was even more surprised then where our gravel road sat in the middle of many asphalt and chip and seal roads as the only gravel road when it is a through corridor, I think, as it was mentioned during the presentation. This area has homes all along the road. It's surrounded by neighborhoods. Actually, there was just another approved neighborhood that will go on there on Eastern called Eastern Estates. That's just a block down from where we're at. So I was excited to see the plan, right? Working through the workshop to see the plan of the roads. The plan came. 2023 information came and went. 2024 information came and went with no mention of upgrade of our road. And then 2025, it was noted that our gravel road would be listed for the minimal upgrade to chip and seal. Literally, I thought to myself, like, how can this be? Right? So how can it be that the roads Eastern and Long Road are asphalt and will be asphalted again in 2024 as part of the plan, and the only road that connects the two will still be gravel, right? Not even chip and seal. How can it be that in 2024, 112 lane miles of county roads that are already asphalt, chip and seal, and micro seal will have another layer of material placed on them before our 1 mile Those stair steps is 1 mile, or as referred to in the plan, 2 lane miles, right? Our road that's gravel that connects these two. So I'm certainly thankful for your public service, and we're asking for your help, right? Really, we're being run down on the road by the hearsay. Hey, I hear they're going to do something. I hear the highway department is going to chip and seal it. They're just building a plan. Hey, I hear that they're doing a traffic survey, right? So that's the first step, and we get our hopes up, and then those hopes are dashed when nothing happens except for further deterioration. So we're asking for you guys to be our voice to the highway department and to monitor the action. You know, Commissioner Withington brought up key performance indicators, and I'm a big proponent of that, and that's the way that we have commitments that are made, that we track them through the execution of those commitments, and we need you to do that. We need you to monitor that action. We're asking you guys to speak clearly and directly about the upgrade of our road and having it being added to the 2024 upgrade list, not for us to wait yet another year, get it on the list next year, hopefully, for something to occur down the road. At the beginning of the December 13th Highway Department presentation on county roads, it was stated that the Highway Department wants to provide a pleasant and safe driving experience, right? Hopefully, I've made it clear that we have neither of those. And so we're asking for your immediate help to get us up to at least the minimum standard. We're not asking for anything special, right? We're not asking for a special road that's made of gold or anything. We're asking for the minimum surface level upgrade to chip and seal so that we can have the road that's similar to roads that are for miles around us, not just those that we're connected to or neighboring, but for miles around us. So with that, I thank you for the time, and again, I ask for your help and your support in getting this done.
Could you, I was going to say, I didn't want you to take off. We have a commissioner who wishes to be recognized. Whether he wants to inquire of you or not, I don't know, but I didn't want you to run off and then have to come back up.
Perfect.
Oh, actually, we have several. Commissioner Withington, you're recognized.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming. You know, I drove this road before I got elected, and you know, it's really bad.
Yeah.
And you know, I think KPIs are going to be very important, and that's why we're going to set up a infrastructure committee, because our highway department's missing their KPIs. They're not meeting their own goals. So we need to, as a commission, step up our leadership when it comes to the roads and bridges. But I have a question for maybe Carl or Terry. Looking at Google Earth, doing some measurements, this road is not as wide as some of the newer roads. Will right-of-way acquisition need to take place?
Well, there would be, and actually I'm going to ask Councilor Graham to talk about that, because that's been part of the issue on why the project didn't occur in 2023.
I'd heard about that, so.
So, and I apologize, I didn't realize this issue was coming up, and it's almost never the case that my office gets involved in these kinds of issues. But I do believe this is the road that I'm thinking of. So there is, and I'm going to be a little guarded about what I share, but there is a landowner on this road who is suing the county and another landowner on the road about the road. And we are trying to navigate through that lawsuit, as well as coincidentally, in the last 2 weeks, my office has been working with the highway department about that very issue, whether we can go ahead and try to get some widening and try to get some upgrades with the pending litigation. So I certainly don't want to overstate it and say that the litigation is the sole cause of whatever is happening or not happening on this road, but I certainly believe it to be a part of it, or a consideration.
That's all I had. You know, like I said, looking at the road on Google Maps, and when I drove it, I didn't get out there for tape measure or anything, but you can clearly see that this road is a lot narrower than, you know, the current standards, right? So, yeah, I didn't know how the right-of-way, and do we have we made any improvement on this litigation?
So we've got a pending motion to dismiss that hasn't been ruled on. And I probably should say, if it's the road I believe it to be, it's a really old road.
Yes.
Like over 100 years, back when roads were narrower.
Yeah.
And it's that width that is an issue. And in fact, I believe that this landowner has even constructed buildings on our right-of-way that we're trying to work through. So this just coincidentally, again, I didn't know this was going to be a discussion, but this stretch of road has been causing headaches in my office as well.
Very good.
Go ahead.
Well, one thing I would add is, as you're going up Eastern Road and you turn left on 138th Street, you don't know that you're turning on a gravel road. Why? Because that road is chip and seal. And as you come around the corner of 138th to Short, that's when it turns to gravel. Now, I did go measure 138th Short Lane, and then if we go to the north side, as you go up Belmont is gravel. It turns left on 142nd. 142nd is also chip and seal. And I measured that road. I measured 138th for the width, and there's not a width difference between what's coming through there down to the gravel road. So maybe width it is important. For me, I'm saying here's a chip and seal road that leads to a gravel road that is right now the same width. Now, I don't know if the width was right when they chip and sealed the others, but what I know is our road is horrendous. So what can be done now is the question, right? It's you turn off of Eastern, you don't know that you're headed toward a gravel road. You're a quarter mile maybe on a chip and seal road, and then that road turns and goes north. It doesn't go wide to narrow, it just turns, right? And it becomes gravel. And then it stays gravel as you go up the stair steps, and as you go up Belmont and turn on 142nd, it doesn't go from narrow to wide, it just continues as a road, right? And 142nd is chip and seal and leads into Long Road, which then is the asphalt straight shot that goes to 92.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, okay, so the gravel part, that's about a mile long?
I say it's a mile. I looked at the calculations that were on the workshop. I think they had it at like maybe 1.5 lane miles, so then the total would be a little bit shorter than 1 mile total. But
Carl, looking at Carl, does that sound about right? Or Terry? About a mile? Okay, so, and then just so I'm clear on this legal issue, the legal issue is the width of the road. Actually, let me get clarification. How wide do we have to do a 2-lane highway there, to chip and seal 2-lane highway? How wide does it have to be?
22 feet.
Terry Griffin, Highway Administrator. Typically, we like to see a chip seal road be at least 22 feet wide.
22 feet for, so both lanes would fit in that 22 feet. And right now,
Yes.
the legal issue, and maybe this is for you, Counselor, is that part of that 22 feet is on private property? Is that it?
I would say that the one landowner believes that the right-of-way is not fully the county's, that the land on the right-of-way, and I want to be very careful about how much I'm saying in public.
Just on his land, on his, in other words, of that mile long, how much of that is he claiming?
That I have no idea. I mean, I don't know the.
It's not like he's a big land.
Yeah, I was.
Owns most of that mile?
Yeah, that I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
there's 8 homes along that mile.
Okay, that makes sense.
There's 13 homes from...
Could you go ahead and speak in the microphone, please? There you go, thank you.
I apologize. Yeah, so there's 8 homes along the gravel mile. Now, I mentioned the beginning portion, there's a small chip and seal portion, and at the end, there's a small chip and seal portion. So the total number of homes right through there is 13. but there's 8 on that mile.
Okay, and what, and this is again probably for you, Terry, sorry, if you know, and I'm throwing stuff out, so tell me if you don't know, but you probably know this one. What, just guesstimate, about what does it cost to chip and seal a gravel road for about a mile? 2 lanes?
Probably $50,000 to $60,000 plus improvements.
15 to 16,000?
No, 50 to 60, 50.
I was gonna say, we pull that
No,
out of
we're not that. I wish.
We have no gravel roads if that
Yeah. $50,000 to $60,000 would get that done.
Plus improvements.
Plus improvements.
Because we know that on that stretch of road, there are also several under-road culvert tubes that need to be replaced before we can widen the road,
Do you think $100,000 could get it done?
potentially.
So that'd be a fair estimate, $100,000 completed, give or
ballpark,
take?
yeah.
Ballpark, okay. And right now, it's on the schedule for 2025, and that's what he's saying, I want to confirm that's, do you know when in 2025?
Well, summer during chip sealing resurfacing season,
Okay.
yeah.
Now, and let's say this commission decided we were going to be able to find some money and get this done tomorrow. How soon could we realistically, because we contract to get that chip and seal done, don't we? How soon could we realistically get somebody out to do that?
Realistically, we would need several months to do the prep work before the contractor came in, but the contractor, it would depend on the contractor's schedule for the summer. I would say by fall of '24 would be the earliest or the latest that it could be done this year.
And on the 2025 schedule, it's scheduled to be chip and sealed.
Yes.
Now, do you know, now this is going to really put you on the spot, and tell me if you can answer this. Do you know why it's scheduled for 2025 and not this year?
It has to do with the litigation.
Oh, okay, yeah, I was wondering. And so then, so the next question is, and maybe this is for the attorney, I don't know who this is for, what can we do with the litigation still going? What can we get done? Is there?
Well, I would assume that we would not, for example, want to, if we have a 1.5 mile lane miles, that we would not want to do part of it, leave part of it because of the litigation section, and then do the other end. We wouldn't want a patchwork. I assume that would be probably more dangerous from a driving perspective and also more expensive from our perspective.
Do we know if the litigation is in the middle of the section or at the end?
They just filed it, I think we got notice in June of '23, so just 6-ish months ago
And
is when they filed.
they don't want us to put a chip and seal road in? Is that the issue?
It's not that. They don't think that we have the right to have part of the road. And they also are trying to, and I said this, and I don't want to, I want to make sure I restate it. They're suing another landowner out there over the road as well. And they've constructed some property, some structures on the areas that we don't believe are theirs to construct.
No.
So the concern is, and again, I want to be very guarded about what I say in public about pending litigation.
Sure.
But it's tricky.
How quickly do you think we could sum up the litigation before we start doing the road?
I think we've had our motion on file to dismiss for about 2 months now. So I mean, we've got a pending motion to dismiss their case.
Now, why would we have a motion on file to dismiss if we're not?
They're suing us.
Oh.
So yeah, the landowner is suing the county and another landowner.
Okay.
And so we're trying to dismiss that case.
So they're suing us because they don't want us to build the road there?
They don't think it's our road. I'm simplifying it dramatically, but
Okay,
yeah.
but right now, is there a road there?
Oh, yeah.
So right now, the
again, it's
gravel road
ancient.
is there?
What's that?
Right now, the gravel road is already there.
Yes.
And if we were to put a chip and seal on, we'd put it right on the existing gravel road. We wouldn't have to expand the existing gravel road at all, would we?
No, we would.
We would?
We would.
Okay.
And I think part of their argument, if I remember it correctly, because again, I didn't know this was coming up tonight. I think part of their argument is that our current road is on their land.
Yeah. Okay. And Terry, can you confirm how much we would, can anybody confirm how much we'd have to expand it, the width of that road at that litigation point to get it to the 22?
The road is generally, I think, about 18 to 20 feet wide throughout that entire gravel stretch. There's a little bit of
So you're looking at
variation.
a couple of feet extra we'd have to bump over. And would it be bumped over to the side of the person who's suing, or would it be bumped over to the other side, or it would be split, or do you know?
Well, my
Ideally-
recollection is, I think he's making a claim that he has land on both sides of the road.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
That can make
So-
things tricky.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So can I answer a couple of your questions?
Sure.
So I did, just again, the presentation was fantastic, and it was nice to listen in. And so what I heard during the presentation was it's about $20,000 per lane mile to chip and seal a road in the county. That was the numbers that were there. And so quick math, I said, okay, if it's 2 lane miles, it would be $40,000 to chip and seal the road if it was 2 lane miles. And then the improvements that are needed, I have to speak openly. We've been told that improvements were needed, like the replacement of culverts and things, but no one has ever said, it's that culvert, and we're gonna replace it on this date, right? It's always been that there needs to be upgrades and things, and so, yeah.
So then my question is, probably this is for you again, Terry, is number one, but for the fact that we're in litigation, would this be on the 2024 schedule?
It could be.
Okay.
Again, the way that we scheduled, we're based on a variety of criteria. What budget we have, what we think materials and installation are going to cost, and those kinds of things. So if there were no litigation and we put it on 2024 scheduling, we would have had to remove other roads
Sure.
that were on the 24 schedule.
I guess my question
So
is, in order of priority, would this have been, based on what you see on the road schedule now, would this have been a higher priority than some that we have on there now?
It could have been, yes.
Yeah, okay. And then when you talk about culverts and different things that have to be done, when you chip and seal, could some of that work be done, or is that normally done before the chip and seal is put down?
Part of the issue is how wide do we make the culverts? Do we make them to fit the road as it currently exists when we replace them, or do we make it wider into that contested
And that's
area
based on litigation. Okay.
which is where they need to go? So
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
I don't have a definite answer for you.
Okay. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. And first of all, Mr. Goblin, thank you for being here, and thank you to all of your neighbors for being here. You got a great budget presentation as a bonus, so hopefully that means something. But in all seriousness, coming here isn't necessarily an easy thing to do, and you did, and so I wanted to acknowledge that and appreciate you doing that. Just a couple of things. You know, it strikes me that part of the amorphous issue, if you don't mind me saying it, about price has to do with the widening of the road and then what happens as a result of that. And I would contend that if we're going to do the road, we should do it at today's standards, not the standards of yesteryear, because then someone down the line, maybe the person who next lives in the house you're in is going to say, hey, you gave us this, you know, it's a great road, except it's too narrow. So my feeling generally is if you're going to fix it the one time so that's done right. Now, if that means a delay, that may be not an optimal situation, but maybe one that is acceptable. It does strike me, though, that the line of questioning that my colleague ended with, I think, is a very interesting one and an important one, in that if there is opportunity to do something in '24, if litigation is resolved, that kind of represents another opportunity. Having said that, depending on how long that takes, we've had many discussions here about, and you've probably seen, you know, how long do you have in the year to actually do that work? And my thinking, which I just throw out there, which may cause heart attacks and whatever, is just simply, you know, is there an opportunity to look at trading out this project and push something to 25? In my mind, that is somewhat guided by traffic and traffic count as well as condition of the road. And so I just kind of throw that out in the ether just to suggest that if you have a position where you can get the litigation out of the way, perhaps that provides a window to be able to do something in 2024. Then this body would have to decide, what do you trade? Now, I will tell you, since the Western District has no roads that are in unincorporated Clay County, that is probably not I probably don't have a dog in that particular hunt, but I do at least throw out that that could be a pathway to get you a road that, in all honesty, should be there, knowing how much is being built around you and that you are essentially the shortcut, which I guess will bring me to my final point of, you know what happens when you have a good road? People drive on it. And that means the trade-off here could be, yes, we can give you, through some means, an ability to get a better road quicker, but that may also mean that all of a sudden you have invited a lot more traffic to go through there, which you have probably already contemplated. And you've probably decided, I'm going to assume, that if you can get rid of these darn potholes and give me a chip and seal, I'll take a few more cars down my street. And if that's the case, then that's okay, but I feel at least compelled to mention that people drive through and as fast on whatever road they feel that they can safely do so. And when you have a better road that is wider, that can handle more traffic, you will probably get it. And that's just how that's going to be. So I feel like there is a path to get you where you want to. I think there is at least one thing in the way. And depending on how fast that gets resolved, maybe there is a pathway to get this done earlier rather than later. And I just leave those comments there, and I appreciate you and the neighbors coming out here tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And, if I can respond?
Yeah.
So I appreciate your comments about the traffic. So certainly the traffic has picked up through there over the 5 years that we've owned out there. And I think it's because a lot of people, they come off of Eastern or they come off of Long Road and they're not turning on a gravel road, right?
Yeah, they see chip and seal and they expect that's going to be what's there. Yeah.
And those that love gravel roads, they come down there to spin their tires and run like they can, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where, really, and I've sent videos of the roads. I have a video and pictures right here of the roads. We're not talking about a pothole here and a pothole there.
Mm-hmm.
We're literally talking about potholes encompassing the road between times that the road gets repaired.
Gotcha.
And so it's dangerous. And I understand litigation. I don't know everything about it, but here's what I do know. It didn't start, that didn't come up until the middle of 2023. And people have been asking about getting this road fixed for years and years before that. And for one reason or another, it didn't happen. And so when we live on the road, we have to wonder if this is just the next reason for it not to happen, right? And this is where I come to you, and my hope is that as we leave this discussion today, right, if you're not able to prioritize this road at this point, that this isn't the last time you discuss or you follow up on this point, because we can't allow our road to just get left behind, or next year I'll be standing here saying, I hope it can get done in 2025, right? And so I appreciate the comments. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me. I appreciate the questions. We just want to have the pleasant and safe driving experience that you and the highway department and we all want for people that are in Clay County.
Well, I appreciate your advocacy, and if you drew straws and you got the short straw, you're going to get the short straw every time because you've done a good job tonight, so thank you.
Did you say you mentioned you measured the width of that road, your road?
I did.
What was it?
So I had it between 20 and 22 all the way around. Of course, when you come off of Eastern, the road funnels in like every road. It's a little bit wider where it connects to the road, but it's wider there.
You know, and that was something that I've heard, that a road couldn't be chip and sealed if it were a certain width. But I got to thinking about that today. I had to go over by Stewart Road, again, they call it Circle or something. And there's a big horse facility back in there, and I go that way all the time. And that road is not as wide as your road, and it's chip and sealed. So, you know, there's other roads out there that are narrow roads that are chip and sealed, so that doesn't wash with me. The other thing is, you take a road like Cordell Road. Now I have to take that road all the time because 92 Highway has some construction on it. One of the most beautiful chip and seal roads I've ever seen. That thing is gorgeous. And now a lot of traffic's been going over it, like they talk about, you know, once your road's good, then you get all the traffic. But there might be one little tiny pothole that's there, and that's it. And other than that, that road is gorgeous. And in some areas, it's narrower. It's good coming off of 92, but as you go winding around, you know, it starts narrow. So, you know, the width of the road shouldn't really have a whole heck of a lot to do with it. And I do have a question for our attorney. What about eminent domain? Can we take that and?
Well, understand, our position is it is our road, and we have a right-of-way.
Yeah.
I mean, so we certainly, we would only do that if we didn't own it. So the road law is reasonably complicated, particularly when you're dealing with 120-year-old roads.
Yeah.
Before statutes existed. So, yeah, we wouldn't go that route, and to be honest, that would make it a much longer process, I
Okay.
think. Yeah.
All right. Well, and to your point, you know, promises have been made, like it was supposed to be done in '23, as I understood, and we made that commitment. So I guess what I'm saying, whatever we need to do to get this road taken care of, I think that we need to do that because we've made the commitment. It was going to be done in '23. It wasn't done in '23. Now it looks like '25. We need to do whatever we need to do to get the darn thing fixed in '24. I just, you know, my feeling.
And so then I would wonder, with these other narrow roads, is it a desire that the width is 22 feet or a requirement? Because as I look at the plan, our road is on the plan for asphalt in 2029. It's hard for me to say 2029. It's like the very last, but, and so, okay, if that is the plan, then can we chip and seal the road that exists now? We're talking about the gravel road that exists now, not widening, not the land to the left or the land to the right, the road that people drive down every day, knowing that already in the 5-year plan in 2029, there is a plan to asphalt that road. And by then, hopefully everything's clear, right? You can make the road as wide as you desire, but we're really, I have to reiterate, we're not coming from this is a gravel road, we don't want a gravel road. We're talking about a dangerous road that has potholes. It was graded 2 days ago, and I took a picture of the potholes that are still there, right? And the gravel they put down, when we drive over it and it rains again, the potholes will be there. And how do people get away from the potholes? They go toward the center of the road, right? Which means closer to any oncoming traffic. And so I appreciate the comments. And yes, if it is possible to chip and seal what is there, edge of road to edge of road, I would think it's doable because the plan further down has further work to be done, asphalting, hopefully earlier than 2029, but currently in 2029.
Well, I sincerely appreciate your time. I've enjoyed dealing with the community out there, and you know, I'll continue to fight for everything I can to get that done for you. But you know, as you can see, I'm one of 7, so. But I agree that something needs to be done.
And I invite each and every one of you, if you want to see the videos and the pictures, I have them here, or you're always welcome to come out to my place and we'll walk the road and talk about it. So.
There you go. Hold on, did I get you? There you are. No, I did, but it got flipped around somehow.
We're a mess. We're a mess.
I
Okay.
know.
I'm going to jump on in here because I've been pretty quiet sitting over here minding my business. But we have had some issues with these roads. And I know some of the neighbors out here. I see y'all. I've talked to you many times. I have loaded up my family and my small children during the week and drove your roads in my minivan through these potholes. I was just out there a couple weeks ago before Christmas. I know we were having some dialogue back and forth and trying to get some conversations going. I will tell you that I take advice from attorneys very seriously, so I will be very careful what I say due to pending litigation, but I feel comfortable saying that if we can get something taken care of, we're going to get your road done. And I've been working on this, and we've been talking about it. There's been emails back and forth and conversations, and that's the number one thing I believe in. We should have good infrastructure and roads here in Clay County. And I am sorry it's taken this long, because this has been a conversation we've been having since coming into office in 2020. So I'm going to keep fighting. I know we have other fellow commissioners who feel the same way. And anytime you have a problem, you reach out to me. I'll give you my cell if I need to, and I will load up my small 3- and 6-year-old, and we go drive it around. We take photos. We see these potholes. My kids know what a pothole is. They don't like them. I'll tell you that. We have to drive real slow. But I feel comfortable saying that we're going to get this done, and I'm hoping we're going to get it done before 2025, because my heart sank deep in my stomach when I saw that, as well as I'm going through the book during our presentations. So I want you to know, and I appreciate you all coming out, and just let me know, and I will continue to fight on my end of the way I do it over here. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. This is more of a question for staff. When will we finalize our list of actually the roads that we will chip and seal? I mean, when we either send it out for bid or send staff out to do the work, when is kind of our drop dead as far as when that list is finalized?
We can go out to bid in the next, say, couple of months.
Okay.
However, we won't finalize the list until after we've done the PCI scores. That is the Pavement Condition Index
Right.
scores, and those usually cannot be done until March. We want to wait till the winter is over, when we have dry roads, because water covers potholes. We all know that.
Yeah.
And so I would say the earliest that we will finalize the list would be April, possibly May.
Gotcha. And thank you. And the reason I asked that question is it seems to me there's two dates that have to converge in a sense. One is this one, when you actually put that out. And the other is if we find out regarding this litigation, and if this is dismissed, it seems, and I don't want this to sound like kicking the can, but there is a can to be kicked, but that can only go for 3 months. And so it seems to me that if we know what the status of that is by March or April, that could then determine for this body whether or not there is opportunity to accelerate this.
Sure.
And still have time to put it on a list if this commission wanted to. And so I just offer that just as an observation and perhaps something for this group that has come here tonight to be aware of. To me, that is the window of opportunity to potentially put this on 24. Am I looking at this the right way?
I think that you're correct. And I would remind everyone here too that the lists that we presented in December are proposed or projected. They don't have to be set in stone. This body can certainly make adjustments, changes, whatever, and we anticipate that there will be some of those just simply because we cannot accurately predict what every road condition is going to be from year to year. It's just impossible. We also cannot predict what our prices are going to be for the materials that we need to have. So therefore, again, there may be adjustments because our budget just doesn't allow us to do that many. On the other hand, it could adjust the other way. If prices are lower than anticipated, we can do more than what was proposed.
Right.
So there's those are the lists that we've presented previously are. I'd like to say they were more than guidelines, but I think that that's probably perhaps a good description of that.
Sure.
And I'd like to address one thing too, Commissioner Lawson, that you mentioned, and that is if we have narrow roads that are chip sealed now, why can't we chip seal another narrow road? We can, certainly, but it's a safety aspect, and it's also a matter of, do we want our roads to be first-class roads, or do we want them to be roads from the 1950s and 60s? And that's obviously we would like them to be roads for the 2000s and ahead, but that's why right now our standard is that we try to widen those roads out as we do them. And that's why the wider description is.
And I appreciate those answers, and part of the reason why I asked the question is simply to at least give some guidance to all of you who have come here. So you walk away with something, even if it is, okay, maybe another 2 months when we have to have this discussion again. But I think it's just helpful for us to frame what can we do and when can we do it. And then I'll just throw out there again, as it is guidance that we have so far, if one wants to do other things.
Well, and we want your guidance,
right.
Your guidance
there's
as to where we're going to go with it.
there
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. So it's not just an easy, okay, we can
Right.
just add this necessarily. There may be a trade-off there. But anyway, appreciate the answers. And again, thank you for coming.
Commissioner Johnson.
I had two quick questions. I think you answered one. That the question wasn't, and he had asked two. Do we have to go 22 feet? Can we go? So there's no state law that requires it. It's just kind of the standard we've set for ourselves that we want to do. If we needed to,
It's kind of industry standard.
There are industry standards, and those come from safety.
Right.
And again, what's the speed limit? There are all those things that come into factor. So those are our technicals, our desire today. And as Terry said, how we built roads 20 years ago, 10 years ago, are not necessarily how we build roads today.
and if this is somewhat of a main thoroughfare, we probably want to keep it at that. Yeah. And then the second question was, should we have this litigation out of the way? Should we find the money for this road? Could we get this done and not bump anybody back to 2025 that's on the 2024 schedule now? Could
Depends
we
on the
add to
budget.
it?
All I can say is it depends on the budget. I mean,
But if we added to the budget, I'd say.
if you added to the budget, certainly, we
Okay,
can
yeah.
add some more, yeah.
Because I'd actually prefer to do that than bump somebody else, because people probably already look and say, hey, okay, I'm coming this year, and to bump them next year, then they're going to be right back here as well. Okay, that's all I have. Yeah, so I'm fully in support of trying to get this done as soon as we can, trying to get the money we can to get it done, and trying not to bump anybody back who's on the 2024 schedule, and trying to get this litigation out of the way as soon as we can. But yeah, I'm fully supportive of getting this done.
We have two more commissioners wishing seeking recognition. Before we do that, I want to see, are there any other citizens who are going to want to comment this evening? Okay. I'll tell you what, anyone who would want to comment, if you could queue up behind the speaker right now, that way I can visually make sure that I'm accommodating everybody. So we'll go ahead and I'll go to Commissioner Withington, then Commissioner Lawson, and then we will go to the next citizen, if that sounds acceptable to everybody. Commissioner Withington.
I think we'll know next week if we'll have some extra money from the April election for this, to do this road. But Terry, I got a question for you. Who's qualified at the county to do the PCI scores?
Our staff, our field supervisors are trained to do the PCIs.
So this is one thing that has bothered me from the very beginning, since I've taken this. If you guys don't touch a road, we know it didn't improve over the year. So we should be able to, I know you said, oh, well, this is suggestions or, the reason I asked for a 5-year road plan was so we could actually know what roads were actually going to be done. If you guys do roads and then you don't do roads, or you do a set of roads, but then you don't touch these other roads, the score's not going to improve. So what I'm saying is, I wasn't asking for a list of a proposal, a suggestion. Like, I wanted to be able to tell people, this is exactly when your road's gonna be done.
I'll take that, because this is a different philosophy for the highway department,
Well,
and it's hard for them to change. But I would
think
say
that's
to
probably
you,
one of the biggest problems this county has faced. Yeah.
and I would say to you, that is not a proposed plan that we have given to you. Those are the roads that we are saying we should do in the year we should do them. Now, certainly, it's always the commission's preview to change it around, right? But that means we may bump one to another. But Terry and I have had this conversation, and Carl, those are the roads that are scheduled in 24, 25, and 26. When she talks about doing the PCI every year, yes, there may be roads that deteriorated quicker than what we thought because the weather was hard on them. So we may have to add them also, which is why I've asked them to ensure that we have a little bit of contingency money set aside in the budget for those roads that, because of a harsh winter, got bumped up because they just fell apart, and we were not anticipating that.
Okay.
So it is a little bit different than what she said.
Okay, that helps, because it concerned me when she said
I know.
these were just proposals. That wasn't at all what we were looking for.
Exactly.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Lawson.
You know, we talk about safety, and I know you're right, that you do want to have that wide road so that's a better driving road. But when you have people that are driving a gravel road, and I've driven gravel roads all my life, but that you have to be cautious. If you don't know what you're doing, you'll end up in the ditch. But when you've got to dodge the holes like they have on there, every one of you ought to go out there and drive that darn road. I drive roads all the time. When people call, the first thing I do is I don't take them at their word. I go out there and I drive the road and make sure how bad it is. And I know you do that as well. So the thing is, if safety is a factor, then that road needs to be corrected because it is totally and entirely unsafe as it is today. You know, Jim had called and talked to someone at the highway department and was saying, hey, this is dangerous. You know, you come over in the road and you may have to go out in the middle of the road to avoid these. You know what he was told? Well, you just need to learn how to drive on a gravel road, what somebody told him. So, you know, it's that kind of a mindset and a response. It's not just that we tell them we can't get out there and fix it today, but it's the manner in which we talk to them and how, you know, we approach people in situations such as that. But when you talk about safety, that road is unsafe as it can be today. So whatever we need to do to get it corrected and at least up to somewhat of a safety standard, it'd be a blessing.
Yeah, so if I heard you, I feel the same. Is a narrow gravel road ridden with potholes safer to wait to widen the road to chip and seal it? Or is a narrow chip and sealed road without potholes safer in the interim, right?
Is there another citizen who would like to make comment on this subject? Please identify yourself and speak into the
Hello, I'm Joshua Doss. I live on the corner of 140th and Belmont. I'm not going to bore you guys with my complaints on the road. I think we've done that enough. I just have a couple questions. The first statement that I want to make is the county has, in the last 2 days, brought a maintainer out there and did that to the road, as well as they dumped some gravel. However, with that being said, I pull out of my driveway tonight and I try and drive down the road. Now, mind you, I go basically the whole thing to Eastern, and it's like a washboard. Like the gravel's already there, and from people driving on it, it is literally like a washboard driving down the road. So, I mean, they're trying to maintain it and everything, but that's not doing any good. And then my question I have is, I think it's for legal, regarding the lawsuit that they have. The judge has been taking it under advisement since, I believe, in August. Is there any way to have you follow up on that to figure out how long the judge is going to take that under advisement, or what?
Well, judges aren't very good at being told to get to work. And so I want to be a little careful about what I would say on how our strategy for trying to deal with this in a public setting, since these are public. But yeah, we are working on it.
Okay, I appreciate it. That's all I have to say. Thank you guys for listening to me.
Next citizen, please.
Hi, my name is Kara Godwin. I was asked here to bring a student driver perspective. So I also live on Ryan King Road, Jim is my dad, and we moved into our house in 2022. Previously, I went to Liberty North, freshman, sophomore year. I graduated from Smithville High School in 2023. My junior year, I spent as a foreign exchange student living in Germany. So when I moved onto Ryan King Road, I was an intermediate driver and very new to driving. Many adults have and will stand up here and tell you how the road conditions are dangerous for them, and that should only put into perspective how these dangerous circumstances are posed for new drivers, student drivers, so on and so forth. So even when driving with the utmost caution, the state of the potholes are incredibly difficult to navigate, and although the county, as my dad has said, has tried to impose these minor fixes, they just always seem to pop up. And when my cousin comes and visits, she never wants to drive because she is having to just, drive in so many snakes, and it's not safe, right? The road is narrow, but it's really dangerous when you have to go, when you can't even stay in your own lane. So the potholes coupled with, nobody has really mentioned the massive amounts of dust, and I know this is just gravel roads, but I'm a new driver. The dust makes it impossible to see. There's near to no visibility whenever there's a big bus, whenever these farm equipment comes past. It makes it super hard to see what's in front of you, but also the potholes or another car coming. So this is also very dangerous, not only for adults, but also for student drivers with minimal practice in reaction time. I had many near misses when driving from school. It was often from attempting to avoid potholes with minimal visibility due to dust, causing me not to be able to see another car coming my way. I would like to say that there are around 5 student drivers who live on this plot of road, but many more, including my fellow classmates, who utilize it as a through road from and to Liberty and Smithville. This road is used nonstop by student drivers. It's not just me. No Clay County student driver should have to be worried about the safety driving home from school due to their own road conditions. My little sister, she's not going to speak, but she's 15 years old. She takes the bus every single day to school, and she hears she's heard multiple times complaints from the bus drivers about the road conditions, and it's making the bus drivers, making them have a hard time doing their job, keeping their students safe, keeping other drivers on the road safe. It's not just student drivers, it's all of the kids on the bus, not to mention she's 15, so she's learning to drive soon. My learning experience wasn't amazing because it was scary. I'm scared to drive on these roads, and I want a quick, safe option for my sister, and I hope that it can happen sooner than later, not when she's 18, now, yeah. So, but thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Is there another citizen who'd like to come forward? Please state your name and proceed.
I'm Mark Crane, and I am Jim's neighbor, and the majority of the 150 potholes is in front of my mailbox. And they fill up with slurry. Sure, we've got fresh gravel. And then the splashes my mailbox. My mail is continually wet. The thing that I think would expedite this would be this is a part of the artery of the detour of 92 highway. And we all have dealt with that. That's been going on for like 2 years. So the detour's been dealt with the dust and the potholes. And so if there were anything to expedite that, it would be just that, because all those roads have taken a beating. With 92, I don't know what's going on there. They seem to have done a lot of work last year, and then this year it seems they're redoing a lot of the work. So, but I understand that's a state highway, so that's irrelevant to what we're talking about tonight. But I do have a question for the lawyer side of this. Is one of our neighbors is getting sued by this gentleman. And I'm like, he's spent a lot of money. And I'm wondering, is he going to come after us? And I don't have that money to spend.
I don't know your property in relation to this property.
I'm just he's 2 houses away from me.
Anybody can sue for anything. I can't tell you that what he's gonna do.
Sure, and I understand you can only say so much, but, and I don't want to beat a dead horse either, because Jim's items all covered everything, a lot of questions that I had. The one thing to mention, though, is the economy right now. I had my wife pull up all the invoices we've spent in the last year and a half. I put tires on 2 work vans, 2 trailers, an SUV, and a sedan, and I've got like $6,000 worth of tires. And it's not just that road, there's other problems. Eastern, there's gaps in the road a foot wide. So I think that area has just kind of been neglected. I don't know why, but if there were anything that would expedite this, I would think you guys might go drive the roads. 144th, very dangerous. You pop over a hill and you're trying to miss a pothole, and that's a blind hill. And I've almost gotten clobbered by Amazon, FedEx, and we know how many of those guys are on the road now. And anyway, that's all I've got to say.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other citizens wishing to comment? Seeing none, and I see no commissioners lighting up my board, so Commissioner Lawson, since this is your discussion item, I will turn it over to you to go ahead and conclude our discussion. Proceed.
Thank you. I really appreciate all of you coming out this evening and sharing your thoughts. Like I say, I think it's much more impactful to the commission to hear from the people that have to live on the road versus just hearing me drone on about it. So thank you very, very much for your participation. All too often, you know, people will sit back and complain about, oh, that damn commission isn't doing anything, and, you know, all those kinds of things. And when people come in and become a part of the government, it just makes us all better. So we sincerely appreciate you coming in. We really do. And we like to hear from the citizens. And, you know, anytime you want to come and visit us, we're happy. Watch us. We love for people to watch the commission meetings because so much happens and nobody ever knows about it. You know, there used to be a newspaper that would be at every commission meeting writing stories, good or bad, and the whole Clay County would know about it. We don't see that anymore so much. So come and watch and stay a part of the government like you are, and I'll do everything I can to help you, and I think the other commissioners feel the same way. So thanks a million. We'll just keep up the good work for you.
Thank you. That concludes the first discussion item. We seem to be getting, it's well after 9 o'clock now. I think what I would like to do, if the commission is okay with this, is to take this issue up, the discussion item, marked committee board appointments next week. I thought that would make me rather popular with the panel as a whole. So we will, Administrator, if you would please place that on our next meeting under discussion, I would appreciate that. And I think we got sufficient consensus to where we can go there. That brings us to reports. Administrator?
Thank you. There is one report in your packet, and that is the Gladstone Special Road District Number 3 Annual Report to the Commission.
Thank you very much. That brings us to administrator comments. You're up again.
Thank you. Just a couple of items. First of all, on the budget, I certainly want to express my appreciation to all the departments and the budget team and the office holders of all the work that they did in putting the information together for the 2024 budget, and their work on the strategic plan, taking the commission's strategic plan and working through that and identifying goals and strategies for that. But I also want to commend everybody for the work they did in the 2023 fiscal year. Again, trying to be very cognizant of taxpayer dollars and coming in under budget in our expenses, and so I want to commend them for managing their budgets as efficiently as they did. Second item I'd like to just briefly talk about is sort of to tailgate on Mrs. Dubin, who called earlier today about how she was treated by our staff. We have an outstanding staff. As we know, tax time can be very stressful for not only our citizens that are having to pay those bills, but also on our staff. But I want to share with you just a couple of things about the collector's office this weekend. So the last 4 business days of 2024 or 2023, they received 1,811 changes and court orders that they had to go in and change people's tax bills. And our staff stayed Friday night until 7:30, almost 8 o'clock, to get all of those entered so that individuals that were paying their bills over the weekend online had the most accurate information. In addition to that, all the payments that were made over the weekend, our staff was posting those every day over the weekend so that if a taxpayer wanted to go back in and make sure that it was received and recorded, that they were giving as much up-to-date information as they could and make that accessible to our residents. So I want to give a shout out to the collector's office staff. They really worked really hard over the last several days and this last weekend in helping our citizens with their taxes, which we know no one likes to pay taxes, but I appreciate everything that they did. And my last item is just that the next meeting of the commission will be Thursday, January the 11th at 6 o'clock here in the chambers.
Thank you very much. That brings us to commissioner comments. Commissioner Carpenter, do you have anything you'd like to share? Commissioner Thompson? No comments, thank you. Commissioner Johnson? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just congratulations again on the budget. You guys did a great job on this. Now you go home and get some rest and start on 2025 tomorrow. And also, Mrs. Dubin's comments, I love that. I love to hear the way that we treat people. I've said this before. I'd like us to create raving fans out of everybody that comes in contact with our employees, whether on the phone or in public. And to hear that is great. That's a level of service that a lot of governments don't give. And I think it kind of sets us apart, and part of our rebranding here in Clay County is that top-notch service. So I appreciate staff and the way they're treating people. So thank you.
Commissioner Withington.
Just echo what he said. Thank you guys for your work on the budget. Hope everybody had a good holiday season, and thank you guys for coming out and sharing your stories about the roads. And I probably was a little too direct earlier with Dave Slater, so sorry you guys had to witness that. Just made me mad, so sorry about that.
Commissioner Lawson.
Yeah, I echo everyone's thoughts on the budget. You guys did a great job. I'd like to say that our auditor, Vic Hurlbert, was an outstanding gentleman. Also did a good job on that. And thank you all for coming, and Happy New Year to everyone. Let's make it better than last year.
Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. I'll just say there's been a hope, desire, or whatever, that Clay County would prove to be a well-run professional organization. And it strikes me that tonight was a very good example of what we are, in the sense that we delivered bad news to a person tonight, and she still complimented us on how we delivered that bad news. And I agree, that is something. That is really something. And what has been demonstrated with our budget process just reinforces that, and even our discussion tonight on Long Road, I think, reinforces that even though sometimes we can't deliver good news to everyone, we will still do our work in a professional manner. And I am very grateful to that, and I am very proud of that. And now we've got 51 more weeks of doing it this year. And I look forward to every one of those weeks and hopefully delivering some good news along the way. Come back again. Hopefully we'll have some for you. But all kidding aside, I am very proud with what we demonstrated this evening and look forward to that through the rest of the year. Thank you.
1 down, 51 to go. I want to first off say I hope everybody had a safe and a good holiday season. New Year's obviously is a chance for us to do a lot of restarts on how we can work on personal improvement, and I'm sure everybody is certainly thinking in those terms. Obviously, from our meeting tonight, I think that while there's always room for improvement, I think the excellence of our staff and the people who are involved in county government certainly showed that the quality is certainly where we were hoping to be, and I'm certain that they will improve even more, difficult though that may be, because they are performing at such a high level. The lady who was we were not able to help on her property taxes certainly reflected something that you don't see as much as we would like to in this day and age, and that is someone who can accept bad news and do it in a way with class and grace. And I think that's a lady that we should all strive to emulate, quite honestly. The other thing, and I just want to go ahead and let the county commission know about this, there has been a meeting scheduled for the Clay County EDC Executive Board for Tuesday morning that just kind of came up. One of the items for discussion is going to be the EDC potential merger between Clay and Platte County. Just want to say a couple of things about that and then let it go. First off, I think it's been mentioned, but I want to say it again. Platte approached Clay County. We did not approach them. I have not heard any particular interest on the part of Clay County. I think what's going on right now is an exercise in due diligence. That meeting will be to discuss how it is we want to approach our friends on the other side of the county line. For myself, I think there are a couple of things that I'm going to go in there thinking about. One of them is the question that I think should always ask ourselves when we're doing any kind of action, and that is, does this benefit the citizens of Clay County? That's first and foremost what we need to be doing. Secondarily, often when we have these questions before us, I think we sometimes don't always ask the correct question. The correct question, at least for me personally, is to ask why we should do this, not why not. This is not something that I think that should be a slam dunk. I think the burden of proof is on those who would like to see this merger. I am certainly willing to listen to arguments with as an open mind as possible. That being said, that meeting is going to be rather early on Tuesday morning. If any commissioners want to express any opinions that they would like me to carry to that meeting, I would certainly be more than happy to hear what you have to say and to express those in that meeting. I apologize for the rather short notice on that, but this is not a regularly scheduled meeting. So with that, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking my suggestion to put off the last discussion item. I, for one, am ready to hit the road. So with that, if there are no other comments, we are adjourned.